Good morning, everyone in the hearing room. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of July 30th. We begin our agenda with a salute to the flag, so if everyone will stand and join me. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We continue with our TV coverage and announcement, and Mr. Villalobos, if you can do that and follow with the roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning to the Commission. Planning Commission hearings are televised live on CSBTV Channel 20 at 9 a.m. in the South Coast, Lompoc, San Ynez Valley, Santa Maria, and Orchid areas. Rebroadcast Planning Commission hearings are on Fridays at 5 p.m. on CSBTV Channel 20. Today's hearing will also be streamed live on the county's website as well as the county's YouTube channel and will be available for download in a day or two. Moving on to roll call, Commissioner Cooney.
Here.
Commissioner Park.
Here.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Chair Bradley.
Here.
And for the record, Commissioner Martinez will be absent today.
Thank you. Secretary Wilson, we begin with our agenda status report, and you can go on to the projection report also.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Looking at the status of our agenda today, we have one item on, restart. It's been a while. We have more than one item on the agenda. We have 3 items on the agenda. The first item is some cleanup items on the FAMCON pipe and supply development plan project that we've heard a few weeks ago. And then we have the Brick Barn Winery Tier 3 and special events project. And then we will end the day with the hearing on the Constellation and Land Development LLC Hotel and Residential Development Project. That concludes the status of the agenda. Staff and applicants, is my understanding, are prepared to present on all those items today. And I'll move to the projection report, Madam Chair.
Please.
Our next scheduled hearing is August 6th. There is no items projected, and I don't anticipate anything. So unless there's an item from today that you'd want to continue to August 6th, I'd recommend canceling that, or we could trail that until the end of the hearing. Otherwise, I recommend that we can cancel August 6th. Our next hearing after August 6th is August 13th, which is, we have 2 items on that agenda. Government code consistency or conformity, struggling today. Determination on that. And then we also have a cannabis operation which is requesting a revision to their hours of operation. After that, August 27th, we have a hearing on the environmental justice element of the comprehensive plan. Please note that hearing on August 27th will be here in Santa Maria. And then following that hearing, we have one item projected for September 3rd, which is another housing development project in the Isla Vista area. And September 10th, we have a hearing as well here in Santa Maria, which is an appeal. And then moving further down in the projection report, we have our next hearing after that would be September 24th, and we have a presentation by Ben Singer on streamlining and housing accommodation ordinance amendments public workshop. And then October 1st, we have nothing projected this time. And then October 8th, we have the development plan for Quayside H coming for the Planning Commission, and that'll be here in Santa Maria. And October 29th, we also have an appeal on that date. And then we also on October 29th, we have another appeal of a single-family dwelling. So as the Commission knows, and Mr. Seawards is here today, we do have a number of single items on the projection report. We'll be working with staff to either add items to that or consolidate those so we're not having just one item hearings to the Commission. So I will work with Mr. Seaward on managing the agenda as far as consolidating or adding more items to it. But that concludes the projection report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Does any commissioner have a question? Commissioner, do you have anything? No? Okay.
I do.
About the projection? Yeah.
I just wanted to alert the staff that I will be out of town on vacation on the 27th. do not expect to be back in time for the meeting.
27th of August?
Of August, correct.
Okay.
And then, Madam Chair, would you want to take up the cancellation of August 6th now, or shall that?
Yeah, let's do that. Does anybody have a motion to cancel August 6th?
I'll move. I will second that motion.
Commissioner Reed and Cooney, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Okay, with that, we move to our public comment. This is an item on our agendas where people that want to speak to the commission for a item or thought that is not on our noticed agenda can do so now. I don't have any requests for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to do that? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment item and move on to our planning commissioner's informational reports. If anyone has something they want to share with us about a seminar experience, no, not seeing a light on, we'll move past that. And then move to our minutes. We have the minutes of July 9th in front of us to approve. Does anybody have any corrections or a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve. I did not identify any corrections.
Yay.
I'll second.
Cooney and Reed, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Okay, now we go to our director's report. Secretary Wilson, are you our stand-in?
Oh, no, she's on vacation. So, Madam Chair and Commissioners, Director Plowman is out of the office this week. I can just give a brief overview of board actions of the last week, and then looking forward. On July 15th, the board had a hearing, and there was 2 items on that hearing of note to the Planning Commission. The open space element was presented as far as updates and direction to the board. It was continued to August 26th, so no action was taken. And then on that same day, July 15th, the mobile home park overlay was presented and approved at the board. That was heard by the Planning Commission several months ago. So that occurred on July 15th, and looking forward in the board's calendar, on August 19th, there are 2 items that the Planning Commission has heard before. Both of them are appeals. One is an appeal of a ag water well in the Hope Ranch area. Really the nexus of it is the grading permit that was associated with that. That was heard by the Planning Commission several months ago. And then, in addition, the recent housing development project in Isla Vista was also appealed, which is a Mission Isla Vista housing development. That was also appealed to the board. So those are scheduled for August 19th. And as I indicated earlier, the open space element update discussion was continued to August 26th at the board. That's the items of note that's going to the board. I don't have any other items to present to the Planning Commission in regards to the director's report.
Okay, any questions for staff on that? Not seeing any of your lights on. Okay, thank you, Secretary Wilson. That brings us to our standard agenda. So, Mr. Villalobos, do you want to read that into the record?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The following is a hearing on the request, excuse me, of Steve Penza to consider case numbers 23 GPA 1, 23 RZN 1, 23 DVP 16, and to adopt a mitigated negative declaration, case number 24 NJD 11.
Thank you. This is the point where we actually do disclosures by the commission of ex parte communications with members of the public on this. Does any commissioner want to do that? Not seeing any, and I had none with anyone other than staff. So with that, we start with our planning commissioner's staff report.
And Steve is here remotely. Great.
Can you hear me?
Kind of.
I'll try to speak a little more clearly. Good morning, Commissioners and Chair Bradley. I'm Steve Connor, and I'll be presenting the agenda item on behalf of Planning and Development staff. The item before you today is a correction of some clerical errors in the recommended actions and resolutions that staff provided you at the June 11th hearing for the FAMCON Pipe and Supply project. Next slide, please. The corrections are limited to formatting and typographical errors. For example, staff did not include the Planning Commission resolutions in the recommended actions. Those resolutions contain recommendations from the Planning Commission to the Board of Supervisors for adoption of the resolutions that were attached to the Planning Commission resolutions. There are no proposed changes to the proposed project. In the memorandum and attachments, staff has provided you with revised recommendations and edited versions of the resolutions with strike through and underlining to allow you to see all of the changes in detail. Final versions of the resolutions were also included as attachments D1 and D2. Next slide, please. Here's the final version of the recommended actions. We apologize for the small font, but this was necessary in order to display all the actions on one slide. In conclusion, staff recommends that you adopt the resolutions, recommend the Board of Supervisors make the required findings for approval included in attachment A, determine that the mitigated negative declaration is adequate, and approve the project subject to the conditions included as attachment B. This includes staff's presentation, and staff are available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Connors. Does the commission have any questions? Commissioner Reed?
Hi, Mr. Connor. I just like to emphasize, according to your memorandum, there are no changes whatsoever in the project. This is purely some editorial corrections in the format. Correct?
Commissioner Reed, through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so does anyone want to make a motion? Commissioner Reed?
So,
We have to do a public comment.
thank you.
I was just rolling along there. Sorry, you guys, my blood sugar is low, so I'm eating a hypoglycemic thing, but I don't need a break. So let's open the public comment period. Do we have anyone who wants to address us?
For those of us joining us online, if you'd like to speak on this item, go ahead and raise your virtual hand and I'll call on you. Seeing no hands, I do not believe that we received any physical speaker slips for this item.
And I have none here either, so that would close the public comment period, in which case I think we are looking for deliberations in motion.
Well,
Motion.
I'll make a motion in light of the fact there are no changes made to the project, and this purely some editorial, some typographical correction of some typographical errors, and changing a few dates to correct them. I would, and also, given there is no comment, no objection seen from the public or any of the interested parties, I would move that we take the recommended actions given on slide 3, and no, I'm not going to attempt to read them. We take the recommended actions on slide 3 of the staff's presentation.
Do we have a second? Commissioner?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. You want to roll call it?
Sure. Commissioner Cooney,
Aye.
Commissioner Park,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Chair Bradley.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, commissioners. That item went too smoothly at hearing, so there had to be a little hiccup, you know.
I forgot to wish Mr. Seawards a belated birthday.
Thank you.
Thanks to the
Gwen brought me flowers from her garden.
very nice, really classing up the joint. Okay, let's move on to our second item on the agenda, and that would be our Brick Barn Winery Tier 3 and special events. Hang on for our esteemed staff to get positioned.
I'll read it into the record slowly.
Perfect.
The following is a hearing on the request of Norman Williams of Brick Barn Winery to consider case number 22 RVP 16, 22 CUP 4, and to determine that the previously adopted mitigated negative declaration 16 NGD 17 and addendum are adequate, and that no subsequent environmental impact report or negative declaration is required pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15162 and 15164.
Thank you. At this point, this is our time for ex parte disclosures by the commissioners, in case anybody has anything they want to put on record. Commissioner Reed?
Did make a site visit to Brick Barn. I believe it was in April. And talked to the applicant and their representative. Yeah.
Commissioner Park?
I was on the same site visit with Mr. Reed. And also, I've had a meeting or two with WeWatch that weren't about this project, but this project came up, so we discussed that. And then finally, somehow I wound up on a CC list for a WeWatch string of emails that I've never read, and I'm not going to summarize. And if county council says, go home, get them all, print them out, stick them in the record of the hearing, I'll do it. But there you go. If anybody in WeWatch is listening, take me off your CC list.
You know, I'm actually having a hard time hearing you, and that's, so you had, can you restate that?
All of it?
No, just the part about, you didn't print
The
it
last
out.
part I suggested was that if anybody from WeWatch is listening, to make sure that my name is off your CC list for emails, so I don't get a string of emails that I will never read until hell freezes over. So take them off, take me off, and then I don't have to report them here. And I said, and I looked at county council. And I said, if you want me to go home and get all those things and bring them here, and so we can stick them in the record, we can do that. But otherwise, here we are.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Park, I think because you did not review the information that was sent to you, it does not need to be made part of the record.
Okay. Thank you for that advisory. It's a good one. Commissioner Cooney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I only have one conversation to report, and that was a telephone call from counsel for the applicant, Alicia Harrison.
And I also had a conversation with Ms. Harrison regarding the project description and the process, as well as, that's it. Actually, that's the only person I talked to that wasn't staff. So those are the disclosures, and I think we are ready to go with staff's presentation.
Okay. Good morning. There we go. Coming up. All right. Good morning, Chair Bradley and Commissioners. I'm Kathleen Volpe, and I will be presenting the Brick Barn Winery request to elevation from a Tier 2 winery to a Tier 3 winery, which includes special events. The subject parcel is located off of Highway 246, west of Buellton, in the Santa Ynez Community Plan. It is 35.61 acres, nestled between agricultural properties and the Ag 140 Zone District. The parcel is bounded by Ag 15 and Ag 2 100 zone properties. The parcel was originally used as a horse farm, with the barn legally constructed in 1969. In 2015, the use of the parcel was changed to a winery, and the barn was converted into a winery structure used for wine production. In 2016, the winery added a public tasting room and added special events, becoming a Tier 2 winery. The special events are limited to 8 events per year, up to 150 guests. The project before you today is a request to advance the winery from a Tier 2 to a Tier 3. This will allow the winery to increase the number and size of special events offered, and to enlarge their existing tasting room to allow for a private tasting area offered to wine club members. To accommodate the increased patronage, the project includes a request to reduce one winery setback, which will allow for the use of the existing west courtyard for overflow wine tasting gatherings and special events. The project description includes updates to the winery, including interior renovations and incorporating additional allowed incidental food services. This will supersede the Tier 2 winery description. The project proposes increasing the number of special events to up to 40 per year and allowing a maximum attendance of up to 500 guests for a single event annually. However, this does not mean that every event will reach this capacity. 28 of the proposed events will be limited to 150 guests or fewer, aligning with the limits previously allowed under the Tier 2 designation. Additionally, wedding special events will be limited to no more than 8 per year. These event parameters, as outlined in this slide, are consistent with those detailed in the project description. By formally including them in the description, the winery will be held accountable to these limits. The aerial image on the left provides a close-up view of the property. Highlighted in yellow is the winery structure that is the primary focus of this project. It is set back from Highway 246, shown by the light blue line. The structure is situated out of direct view and surrounded predominantly by agricultural land, which, with the exception of a single residential structure on the neighboring parcel. The area marked in green designates the overflow parking area. The aerial photograph on the right highlights the existing driveway and farm roads of the property in blue. These established routes demonstrate efficient maneuverability throughout the site and provide convenient access to additional parking areas. The section marked in yellow indicates the long access driveway leading directly from Highway 246. This extended entryway ensures smooth ingress from the highway and accommodates increased traffic flow during larger events, minimizing the risk of congestion. The driveway's length and alignment are particularly advantageous given the winery structure's placement within the parcel. This slide shows the current setback reduction and the requested setback reduction. The winery setback standard for distance between nearest off-site residents is 400 feet. In 2016, when the Tier 2 winery was approved, it was granted a reduction of this setback to 372 feet, which accommodated the live music in the east courtyard. The live music area is shown in the green box on the photo. The project is requesting a further reduction of the setback to 165 feet, which will allow for the use of the west courtyard for overflow wine tasting gatherings and special events. The use of the west courtyard does not include amplified music, and all live music will continue to be held in the east courtyard with no change in location. Oh, go back. Additionally, there is existing landscaping along the parcel line and landscaping near the west courtyard. Both serve as a buffer to visually shield the west courtyard from the adjacent residents. An adopted mitigated negative declaration, an MND, previously analyzed the potential environmental impacts of the Tier 2 winery, which included special events. The MND concluded that the project would result in either less than significant impacts or no impacts at all. All existing mitigation measures for the MND will remain in effect and are sufficient to mitigate any expected impacts from the Tier 3 winery with special events. Since the current request does not propose an increase in wine production and the MND has already evaluated public access and special events, this project was reviewed through an addendum to the MND. The updated environmental analysis confirmed that the proposed project would continue to result in either less than significant impacts or no environmental impact. Noteworthy areas of focus included noise and transportation, which will be discussed in the following slides. Noise impacts were a key concern due to the proposed number and size of special events. To address this, a comprehensive noise analysis was conducted by RS Acoustics, Inc., evaluating both existing conditions and each proposed event scenario. The potential guest layout that was used in the analysis is shown on the site plan. The red areas demonstrate the location of potential guests, and the green area denotes the location of live music. The results showed that all scenarios either met or fell below the applicable acoustic thresholds at the nearest property line and remained under the 65 dBA limit at the closest residence, as shown in the table on the left. These findings support the requested winery setback modification by demonstrating the events are not expected to generate adverse noise impacts on the neighboring residential property. A comprehensive transportation analysis was conducted by Associated Transportation Engineers, ATE, to evaluate the potential impacts related to vehicle traffic. ATE calculated the average daily trips for the project consistent with the county-adopted CEQA thresholds manual. They are shown here on the table on the left, on the upper left. The annual average daily trips for this project is projected to be 68. This figure is well below the county's significance threshold of 110, indicating that the project is anticipated to result in less than significant impact on transportation and no VMT study is required. The analysis included level of service analysis, which demonstrated that at the intersection between the driveway and Highway 246, the most impacted area, during the highest guest event and accounting for cumulative traffic forecasted, the level of service would be C, which is in compliance with our policies. Additionally, the transportation analysis included a review of the special event parking plan. Areas designated for special event parking are highlighted in red on the site plan and shown on the right of the slide. The project requires 214 parking spaces for the largest annual event, and the proposed project provides 223 on-site spaces, exceeding the requirement. To ensure smooth operations, the special event parking management plan specifies that signage be placed on site to direct visitors and indicate designated parking areas. For all events expecting more than 100 guests, a parking coordinator will be present to manage and direct vehicle flow. The winery's unique siting, set well back from the road with a long driveway, further minimizes any risk of traffic buildup onto Highway 246. The proposed project is consistent with the comprehensive plan and its various elements, including the Santa Ynez Community Plan. Adequate public services are available to support the proposal, and the site remains compatible with the surrounding land uses. Both noise and transportation impacts are within or below current regulatory thresholds, and the project promotes and reinforces the continued agricultural use of the area. The proposed increase in events is intended to support ongoing vineyard operations, and by utilizing existing on-site structures, the project avoids the loss of agricultural land and ensures no reduction in the property's ag potential. The proposed project is compliant with the County Land Use and Development Code. It is consistent with the development standards for the Ag 140 zone district, and with the modified setback, the project is consistent with all winery development and design standards. Staff recommends the commission make the required findings for the project, determine CEQA review is sufficient and no additional review is required, and to approve the project subject to the condition of approvals. Thank you, and I am available for questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Reed.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Well, about in two areas, special events and in sound. I noticed in special events, weddings are broken out and treated separately from all other events. What is special about a wedding that warrants it being treated differently?
Commissioner Reed through the chair. Oops. Nothing in particular. We just wanted to cite in the project description that we wanted to limit the number of weddings that would be available to be held on the property. And so we called that out as a specific line item.
So the number,
Yes, that was applicant driven.
a number of attendees at a wedding can be up to what?
It could potentially be up to, it could be the 1-500 event. It could
Okay.
be, it could be used as that.
Okay. All right. Second question, with respect to the sound and noise levels, I know the slide showed live music areas in the east courtyard area, yet I notice in the sound study, it mentioned with respect to the west courtyard that it could be used for live music, acoustical guitars, string quartets, those sorts of things. So did they just inject that, or are there plans perhaps to use the west courtyard for some unamplified music?
Commissioner Reed through the chair. Yeah, their unamplified music would be potentially held in the west courtyard.
Okay, so all the, and just final question with respect to sound, all the sound limits and things that are described in this, they seem exclusively to describe for live music in the event, well, say a wedding, you know, or where there's dancing. Does that, would those limits also apply if the music were recorded or streamed or what other method they're using to get music to a site?
Yeah, any amplified music.
Any music. Okay, thank you.
I had a couple questions, but Commissioner Park, you probably got more.
I have 9 question areas, and I've already spent a lot of time on the phone with Ms. Volpe. As you know, might imagine, this is a very sensitive thing to discuss in my district, these numbers. And so I want to go through my questions uninterrupted, and I suggest if others on the commission still have questions, they should ask those first.
I'd prefer to follow you because mine are very, very brief and you might already cover them. So I will not interrupt you at all and ask that you go ahead and shoot out your questions.
Let's go. Okay, the neighbor to the west, has that neighbor weighed in? I've seen letters, sort of a form letter from in support of the project. I did not see where those people lived.
Commissioner Park, through the chair, the applicant has spoken with the neighbor to the west. With the Tier 2 winery, there have been no complaints from that neighbor. They did not submit a letter. It is my understanding that they are on vacation, but they are not, I never received anything opposing this project.
Okay, so we've received no phone calls, no communications directly to P&D staff. We're told by the applicant that the neighbor has no objections. Am I summarizing it?
Correct.
Okay. Can you define special event for us? Can you define special event for us under this CUP? And I added those words under CUP because special event may be defined in ordinances generally. In the LUDC, it may be defined specifically in the winery ordinance. It may be specifically defined by wording that's in the CUP, and it may be specifically defined by restrictions that are added in this project description. So I'm just searching for, well, what does it mean?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Park, Ms. Volpe is pulling the exact definition up in the code right now, but in a introduction to that, there is a winery special events have their own definition within the LUDC. So that is the governing code that describes what is allowed and what qualifies as a special event for wineries for this project specifically.
Okay. And the CUP doesn't change that with some other definition, correct?
That's correct. The CUP does not change that because it's actually written in the code, and we wouldn't be able to modify that. That's just the code requirement.
Well, unless the project description called for something a little bit different, they could do that, couldn't they?
Potentially, I don't know if that would be consistent with the code. I think we would have to analyze that specific scenario.
Like this limitation to 8 weddings is that seems to be a limitation provided by a restriction by the applicant that is different from the special event definition in the code. So I'm wondering if that has any staying power because it's of extreme interest.
Certainly. So. Commissioner Park, through the chair, the applicant can always further define and further provide parameters around what is in their project description, and then it is in their project description. So that is something that our enforcement and compliance staff would review if there were any complaints about the project. If they had maybe 9 or 10 weddings, and their project description says they're limited to 8, that would be a violation of their project description. And Kathleen, Ms. Volpe has the
Yeah, I'm going
definition ready.
to ask you to go ahead and describe the definition, and then I'll ask a few more questions about that.
Okay, so Commissioner Park through the chair, the winery special event definition, according to the code, is an event of less than 1 day and occurring on a winery premises attended by 80 or more people, including concerts with or without amplified sound, such as weddings and advertised events, fundraising events, winemaker dinners, open to the general public, etc. Winery special events do not include the wine industry wide events, example, the Vintners Festival or the Harvest Festival, including associated events held at individual wineries. The normal patronage of a tasting room and private gatherings for the owner or employees where the general public does not attend. Sorry.
Okay, let me follow up on that. So the one modification we have here from that definition is a voluntary restriction in the project description that says no weddings other than 8, correct?
Correct. That is the only further restriction that comes to mind. The applicant may be able to speak into additional things that they've added.
It's either there or it's not in the paperwork, and that's what's there. I don't mean to sound facetious, but just to test what that means. If one held a wedding at a small chapel nearby and then held a wedding reception at the property, it would fall within the description of a special event, would it?
Yeah, it would fall. It wouldn't fall in the category of a wedding, but it would be one of the special events of the 40 per year. Yes.
Right. So one might see 8 weddings there and 20 off-site that have receptions there and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mr. Reed may remember it differently than I do, but when we were there, my understanding from what we were told by agent was that these events that they were asking for would all be related to their membership and their membership club. Is there any restriction of that sort within the project description? I don't see it.
Commissioner Park, through the chair, this time, no, they are intended to be wine-driven events where you buy the wine. For every event, you use their wine at the event, so they're wine-focused, but there is nothing in the project description that currently speaks to that.
Okay. Is there an explicit limitation in the project description to where these events would occur on the property?
Commissioner Park, through the chair, yes, there is. A couple things come to mind. The noise analysis is specific to the structure itself and the courtyard, basically the existing winery footprint. Additionally, the site plan, the parking for the site plan, I know we had discussed the arena. There are permanent parking spaces in the arena, so the arena on the site plan is designated for parking. So only the winery structure footprint would be available for special events.
I think on this property, when we toured it, the footprint of the building doesn't really allow large events inside, really large. And the next best space, and it's described in the staff report, is the courtyard, and it does not either. And so one might think that would be a limiting factor on approval, because there's just not room for these things. But one could always add space later somehow, or maybe use other things. So I think it's important we have something explicit. So you're telling me we do. Maybe we can get something more. Okay. Number of events that are allowed already, okay, that aren't in this project for 79 or less is 50, correct? Or what is it? How many events are allowed
Commissioner Park,
already
Chair.
without this
Currently
application?
at the Tier 2 winery level, they're allowed 8 special events with up to 150 guests. However, a winery in and of itself, if there are 79 guests or less, that does not fall under the category of a special event. So anything with 79 patrons or less wouldn't be considered a special event.
Okay, so-
currently it's 8 with 150 guests.
So if I just call it an event and don't call it special, even without approval of this project, it can already have how many events that are under 80?
Unlimited.
Yeah, it would be unlimited.
Unlimited.
Any winery is allowed that function.
Okay. Do we know the numbers for the membership in their club? I'm wondering if you can have unlimited numbers under 80 and up to 40 special events under this application. How many events do we need for those members? So I'm curious if you have the number of members. If you don't, then I'll get it from the applicant.
Yeah, the county doesn't have that number. Defer to the applicant.
Okay. I think we all know that the AEO, Ag Enterprise Ordinance, does not directly govern the number of events on wineries. If you don't know, you know it now. It's governed under the winery ordinance. But we spent a lot of time with a lot of wineries involved in discussing event numbers under the AEO, and the community is going to wonder if we're blowing the lid off, okay, in comparison to the AEO. I'm saying all this so that no one tells me the obvious thing, that the AEO doesn't govern it. I know that. But can you tell me what are the AEO numbers for events? As in how many people are allowed and how many times a year?
Sure. There's different, Commissioner Park, there's different tiers. If you are getting a CUP, there is no limit on the number of events. So it's kind of at the discretion of what they propose, and then we would analyze it against impacts and policies. And then, of course, there is the ZCI level, and it's got a whole bunch of criteria. If you are, for example, greater than 40 acres, you have 50 attendees maximum, but the ZCI does limit you to 12 events per calendar year.
On the larger parcels under the AEO?
More than, if you're greater than 320 acres, you can have 100 attendees. If you're greater than 1,000 acres, you can have 200 attendees. But no more than 12 events per calendar year, no more than 4 event days per month.
So if we had to summarize all of that, it appears to be an upper limit of 12 events per year, unless somebody goes and gets a
CUP, correct. Yep.
Got it. Okay. It strikes me, and almost anybody else who's thought about this, that other wineries will come in and ask for the same thing. In fact, I've spoken with a number of winery owners who are licking their chops at the prospects of doing this. And I have a concern that we will have, in a sense, in a de facto manner, legislated a much higher number than the board adopted when it adopted the winery ordinance. So that's why I'm asking this question. So can you tell me how many Tier 2 wineries we have in this county?
Commissioner Park, through the chair. I cannot tell you exactly how many Tier 2 wineries. When I pulled, from the cumulative project list, overall, I pulled 11 wineries in the county itself. One of them was a Tier 3 winery, with the Brick Barn having a Tier 3 winery pending. Beyond that, a majority of them are Tier 2 wineries, and I would say probably four or less that we have from that list are Tier 1.
And then Commissioner Park, I just did a quick Google. They estimate about 300 wineries, SY Valley, Santa Barbara area, but that's just an internet Google search. Yeah.
I've heard that number.
This is the first jump to a tier 3 since I've been here about 6 years. Most of them I think are tier 2, but I don't have any data at hand on that.
Yeah. I guess we could say there's a lot.
Commissioner
Final
Park,
thing I want to,
can I just ask them to repeat the answer to you so I hear it clearly? You asked, it was a really great question, how many Tier 2 wineries were in the county? And your answer was what?
We don't,
Not
Chair Bradley, we
positive.
don't know exactly. I just did a Google search about how many wineries in general there were, and it's about 300.
And I wrote down 11.
We think most of them are tier 2s or tier 1s, yep.
Chair Bradley, 11, that comes from our cumulative project list, so that's an internal list that I pulled to generate, but it doesn't by any means encapsulate the entire number that are out there.
Okay.
So I think the cumulative project list also, it includes a lot. So we've had, I'd say, a dozen or more wineries over the last few years asking for special events to be added to their permits at the 12 level. And that's probably what is showing up on that cumulative project list. So it has been a trend the last few years that people are going for the 12. We've processed quite a few of those, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
now, on the traffic numbers, and I must admit to being dull with respect to traffic studies because, you know, they always do all this averaging and so forth, and it doesn't seem to capture what really happens to the public when they're going by a place when there's events going on. But that's just my ignorance. But here I see that we've got a number of 68 ADT, average daily trips. Okay, that's 365 days a year, right? Okay. If I do some quick math, that's around, for this one, 25,000 trips a year. And if we divide it by 40 events, that's this project, we're at about 600 ADT per weekend, and weekends in which they have events. Divide 40 into 24,000. No.
Mark, I
Do I need to
understand.
show my work? I mean, it's
No, but I don't know exactly how the analysis is conducted, but I can follow the math that you're presenting, yes.
yeah. You know, I can go through all the charts, but it comes down to the number of 68 ADT which sounds minimal. You know, if you drive out there, and frankly, if you wanted to select one winery that has the most advantageous transportation network in terms of highways and roads in the county where it caused the least amount of impact to traffic, this would be it. And I realize that the 68 is underneath our threshold for CEQA analysis, but we also have to make that finding, which is generally 2.1.5, and I don't know where it is in these findings, but that it's not detrimental to the welfare of the neighborhood and incompatible and all that kind of stuff. So we can still look at the numbers, and I'm just trying to see the magnitude of the numbers or something like that. Okay, well, that's enough. I don't have further questions. Something may come back up.
Madam Chair, if I could just clarify with regard to the ADT. So I think we would defer. We'd probably have the applicant team. They brought their traffic engineer along so they can kind of speak to how the numbers were calculated. But with regard to CEQA and the threshold, the county's CEQA guidelines manual specifically gives guidance to wineries for winery projects and how to calculate the average daily trips to determine whether or not they would be screened from either requiring a vehicle miles traveled analysis or not. And so that's they're directed to give an annual average daily trip count. So I would welcome the traffic consultant to kind of give more feedback on that.
Well, you stimulated me to venture forth with one other question here. And I'm reminded of a conversation I had with Tina Mitchell up in the North County office, who was processing, at least the time I talked to her, most of these CUPs to have larger numbers. And I remember talking with her, and this was respect to what we'd have in the rec master plan, all these things in the AO, where there was concern about parking and numbers, that when she was processing essentially wedding requests over 100 or so, there was generally a requirement of shuttles to handle at least some of the traffic. And I wonder if that's in, and I know it's not in a regulation, I know it's not in a guideline, I know it's not an ordinance, but I've often heard of the lore of the planning department. That's a phrase that Diane Black used with me once. But is it in the lore of the planning department of some number over which you favor including shuttle service for events?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Park, so we have the site plan up on the screen, and I think that's kind of a good illustration to show. So there is no requirement within our code or policy that would dictate when a shuttle is required. When we so this is a conditional use permit, and the commission has pretty broad discretion, so we can analyze the project with regards to its unique characteristics and what's necessary. And this site does have fairly ample parking, and so it doesn't. In staff's analysis of this project, it didn't make sense to somehow have them park the attendees park off site and then shuttle them in when there's sufficient parking on site.
It's just as a resident of the valley, okay, and seeing this all happen and unfold every weekend, what residents are concerned about is not just the parking, because frankly, most wineries have room somewhere if they want to tuck the cars in to park them all. And this property has excellent parking, I think. It's the number of cars as compared to the number of what people call bridal buses. You'll get one bridal bus full of 50 people as opposed to 50 cars. But okay, well, thank you. And like I said, I'm done with my questions for now. I may have some others.
Commissioner Reed?
Just had a couple of points that kind of were generated from Commissioner Park's questions. I recall on the site visit, too, that most of the events, it was described to us as most of the events would be for members, although I do realize that membership can be a rather fluid thing. You can actually sell memberships when somebody buys a ticket to an event. So, but they were in any event described as for members. And secondly, with respect to the letters of comment, the ones we received, I actually Google them. And about the closest neighbors were a couple of streets over in that residential development that's across the field east of it, another one or two scattered in other areas of Buellton, no immediate neighbors. And particularly, I would really like to see some documentation or a letter from that neighbor on the west that's the subject home for the reduction in setback to 165 feet. So apparently that's been given verbally, but I would appreciate some kind of written documentation. So thank you.
Commissioner Cooney, do you have questions?
I do. What I liken this to is the legislature of a particular area adopting a speed limit for that area, and it's all looked over by experts, and everybody says this will be a good number for this roadway system. But in this case, what built-in, if anything, requirements are there for reporting the number of people that are coming to a specific event or who came? In other words, how does staff know if the restrictions that we adopt are being adhered to?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Cooney, so the project does not include any specific conditions requiring the applicant to maintain a list of attendees or a check-in or have a log of that. again, this is a conditional use permit, so the commission does have the authority to add conditions that they would find to be necessary for compliance. We are complaint driven, so if there was concerns and we got complaints from neighbors, we would send folks out to the site to investigate and address. But oftentimes that would be after the fact, so maybe a little difficult. So staff is happy to look at adding a condition to regulate to have a log or a list of the number of attendees.
I think that would be sensible. That would give a real understanding of what the impacts could be if the applicants are reporting, especially in these large events, that X people came, and then we find out through enforcement or luckily that more came, and can take action. But I worry about just the numbers and the control of the numbers over time. So that's the issue.
Okay, I have a number of questions. I'm going to try to be organized and not drop into deliberations, which is hard to do with this kind of a case. But I really appreciate some of Commissioner Park's questions, and they did slim down mine. Okay, so I'll come back to traffic, but for now, on the staff report, the issue summary, your second paragraph under there's 2 APNs, a second one of 440 acres. Where is that, and is that part of this permit? I don't think so, because it's not in, is it? That 440 acre is also controlled by the CUP?
Chair Bradley,
And where is it? Can you get to the site plan?
it's not on the site plan. What it is, the winery premises is it's a particular definition that's used to grow on like any parcel that grows grapes for the vineyard. So it's actually located in a different location. It isn't. That's why I kind of say the subject parcel, because though the winery premises includes the other APN, the focus of the winery structure and where the special events will take place is only on this particular parcel.
So on your page 1 of the staff report, 799 West Highway 246 is just that one polygon on the front. That does not include the 440 acres.
Correct.
Okay, that's just the 35 acre.
Yes.
Okay. Well, can you tell me approximately where this other thing is? It's going to be under this permit? I mean, is it adjacent?
Chair Bradley, no, it's not adjacent. It's on a separate area. I'd have to Google it, which I can.
Okay, well, I think the applicant may be able to explain that. Okay. Okay, on, just a minute. Probably getting to the proposal for music on what we're calling the eastern patio. If you can actually get that slide back up, that would be great, right? I actually did a site visit there on Saturday, walked all over the place, didn't really talk to anybody there except my wonderful concierge that gave me a beautiful flight of wines. They were very good. But the music, are they permitted to have music now, amplified music under their existing Tier 2? Maybe I should
Chair Bradley,
thought
yes,
about that before I asked the question on record.
they are.
Okay, so how it worked on that deck was to be in the middle of that circle between the two fonts of, I can't read it, but it was on the south side of it, not where it's shown here. Is the green rectangle on the right side of that deck, is that to achieve the exact sound attenuation that the noise analysis required?
I would have to defer to the applicant. This is just an approximation, but the noise analysis was done from that section, yes, according to the analysis.
All right, well, my experience was when it was, between that deck and the lower rectangle, it actually covered obviously the deck, but then when I walked around it, I really did not hear it either. So however they do it, I'd hate to see them get in trouble if they take the guitarist or a small, band and actually have them somewhere else on that deck. So whatever that is, the applicant should be clear about having flexibility or not, depending on that analysis, right?
Correct, yes.
You know what I mean?
The analysis was specific to that location, so the attenuation to the parcel line and to the neighboring parcel were done specifically from that location. And the original setback of the 372 feet was to, and I believe it was like about that area of the courtyard. It was very specific. And the applicant can speak a little bit more to that, because again, I can't bring it up in my mind to exactly where they ended up adjusting the line to.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, so getting to the transportation analysis and kind of building on Commissioner Park's questions, we have Mr. Shell available. I don't know if maybe, these could all wait actually until after the applicant's presentation. I had detailed questions about the analysis, don't have to hear them now. So maybe after the applicant, and I don't know if Mr. Shell was going to be part of that presentation, why don't I just do that as part of a Q&A? And if you guys have to jump in, that's fine. Okay? Okay. So with that, I think we're ready for the applicant's presentation.
Thank you. This is already on, right? Yeah. Good morning, Chair Bridley and Commissioners. I'm Alicia Harrison, here today on behalf of the applicant, Brick Barn Winery. Also here today on behalf of the applicant is the Brick Barn General Manager, Elizabeth Dudosky. First, I just want to say thank you to staff for their presentation this morning and for their professional work on this application over the last few years. We are here today to request approval of development plan revision and CUP to convert the Brick Barn 2 winery to a Tier 3 winery, which includes an increase in the number and size of events allowed on the property from up to 8 currently to up to 40. Brick Barn Ranch, where the winery resides, is owned by the Williams family, who purchased the property in the 1960s. Mr. Williams and his family are and continue to be active philanthropic members of the Buellton community, including annual scholarships to high school students as one example of their giving. This application is the result of the family being forward and future-looking to ensure continued viability and vitality of the Brick Barn Winery in the community for the long term. We feel confident that Brick Barn is an appropriate site to accommodate the increased number of events based on the winery's experience, observing activities and functionality of the site for both wine tasting and events over the last 7+ years of winery operations. The site is also a good fit in that it is uniquely situated close to town with direct access off of major thoroughfare, Highway 246. It has site configuration which lends itself to hold a range of events within the existing winery footprint, so there is no change to on-site agriculture and no new development proposed. And the technical analysis prepared for the project found no impacts to the immediate adjacent properties and vicinity. It is important to note, however, that we do not anticipate any immediate material change from this events permit. We do not have a list of potential patrons banging down the door. Rather, this permit affords the Brick Barn the opportunity to market with more flexibility, particularly with the higher attendee count events, and be responsive, open, and available to meet the needs of different organizations in the community. Even though we know the growth will occur over time, given the lengthy and expensive CUP process, the amount the owner has invested to date in this application, and given that our studies show the site can support up to 40 events, we wanted to seek the most flexibility now with the hopes to avoid a future CUP process down the line. Overall, we believe the increase in number and variety of events implemented over time will strengthen Brick Barn's contributions to the local economy and enhance and diversify the experiences they can offer the community. So a little bit about Brick Barn. They started as an Arabian horse stable breeding facility in 1968, which was followed by a shift to viticulture and establishing a vineyard in 2012. In 2015, the owner sought and received the Tier 1 winery permit to convert the horse stable into a wine processing facility. In 2016, the owner received the Tier 2 winery permit to offer wine tasting and special events. Since its opening in 2018, Brick Barn has transformed into a prominent wine estate, well-loved gathering place, respected business, and community gem. In fact, in May 2025, Brick Barn was spotlighted as the Business of the Month by the Buellton Chamber of Commerce. Through this journey, Brick Barn has always seen itself as a place for gathering and making connections, part of which has been supported and fostered by its proximity to town and ease of access off Highway 246. It is this third place concept and reputation that Brick Barn wants to carry forward and to continue to grow for years to come. That said, the wine industry is a terribly challenging industry to make a living and to find success long-term, especially for a sole proprietorship winery like Brick Barn. The industry is always changing, heavily influenced by climate change, consumer demand, price fluxes, technology change, and unexpected events like the COVID pandemic. Wine production, marketing, and sales is an all-in business, which is also very time-consuming, very competitive, and very expensive. Unlike many wineries in the industry owned by large national and international corporations, Brick Barn is a direct-to-consumer boutique winery, meaning they do not create in bulk or sell in bulk, so they are largely dependent on visitors to the winery and growing and supporting wine club membership through Brick Barn or other special events. As such, looking forward, the winery is seeking flexibility to create more opportunities to bring visitors to Brick Barn to support and grow their membership and production. We selected up to 40 events to provide the most flexibility and opportunity for growth over the long term and life of the winery. The primary growth focus of the proposed special events is to support Brick Barn wine production and wine club membership growth and retention. Currently, the membership is around 2,000. This includes Brick Barn wine parties, pickup parties, winemaker dinners, and other themed events. The increase in the number of up to 150 attendee events is primarily to ensure that popular Brick Barn wine events, such as comedy nights and other themed events that reach over 80 attendees, can still be in compliance throughout the year. Next would be to support Central Coast California Wine and Agricultural Industry Associations and wine-focused corporate events. This could include wine seminars, awards banquets, association meetings, fundraisers, or other ticketed local events, such as wine dinners in partnership with local organizations. Wedding events would be allowed, but are not the driver for this application. And as you see in the project description, we have voluntarily limited that to 8 wedding events per year. Brick Barn does not intend to be a wedding venue. So now a little more about why the site is uniquely situated and configured to accommodate the increase in events. The winery sits on a 35-acre property with about 19 acres of wine on the lower property, and the other part of the premises that was discussed earlier, the 440-acre property, is up to the east. You see marked there with Upper Vineyard, and there are approximately 16 acres of vines on that property. Together, this is the winery premises. To the west, there is a mix of agricultural uses and one residence to the immediate west. As noted in the staff report, use of the west courtyard for wine tasting gatherings and events is located within 200 feet from this residence and requires a setback modification. Regarding that neighbor on the west, we have met with them about the project changes, and we have confirmation via email that they support the project. We had expected that they were going to submit a letter, but they're on vacation this week, and I anticipate that's why the letter did not come in. But we did not submit their confirmation to us via email because it wasn't directed to the Planning Commission. But I'm happy to talk more about that further if you have more questions. The closest residential neighborhood to the east is over 1,000 feet away from the winery. We've also received letters of support from neighbors in this area. As you can see, the property is well situated close to town and along the major thoroughfare, Highway 246. 246 has 2 lanes in each direction, a center lane, and wide shoulders. The site is also easily accessible in that it is not located deep within a remote agricultural area with unlit, uneven, or windy roads. It's just far enough to be away, but close enough to be convenient. Can easily support weekday activities or special events after work. The proximity to town and ease of access off of Highway 246 easily lends itself to the third place concept mentioned earlier. The proximity also lends itself to shared rides. The winery also has a substantial setback from Highway 246, approximately 1,000 feet. This is beneficial in that it allows multiple cars to enter without triggering a queue on the highway. Due to the setback and slight gradient of the property, the winery is barely visible from the highway except for the top of the barn, and the winery cannot be heard at the highway, as the primary ambient noise is the highway traffic. All activities are proposed to be contained within the existing winery footprint that you see there. No new development, such as any event barn or any other structure, is required to accommodate the increase in events. Here is the floor plan for the winery, and you will see, is it the red button? That's the light. Is it the red button? That's the light. Or is there a light?
It likely won't show up on the screen anymore.
Oh, it won't show up on screen. Okay. So you'll see the shaded parts, the configuration of the building is in a T shape. And this is due to the conversion from the Rabin Horses stable to the winery and now wine processing facility and winery. And as you enter the property, you would come into the lower part of the T, which is the wine tasting room. And you have an option to go to the right, which is the east courtyard, and to the left, which is the west courtyard. And then attached to that east courtyard, so the east courtyard is shown in red, the west courtyard is shown in yellow. And then also connected to that east courtyard is the club lounge. Everything related to winery operations is over to the left side of the screen. That's basically the offices, the wine distribution room, and staff room, and the incidental food service kitchen that currently exists. You can see that, and also from our experience, you can have an event over on the east side in the courtyard in the club lounge and maybe use some of the area that's just beyond the patio under the oak tree and have wine tasting on the west side and not really have interaction between those parties, and it would feel really separate. And it's hard to tell that there's the number of people that are there because it has these distinct spaces. The T-shape and separation of the courtyard by the wine tasting bar also provides a buffer for sound between the east courtyard and the west courtyard and the residence that is beyond the west courtyard. As shown, we also show the music. It's in the dashed red line area. Live amplified music would be on the east courtyard, not in the west courtyard. The study did just look at that particular location. However, I think if it was oriented, and we can have the noise consultant talk to this later if you would like, I think if it's oriented towards the building, either, whether it's on the south looking north, I would imagine that would still be modified because the building is there, as opposed to being closer to the wine tasting room and projecting out over the field. As for parking, there is plenty of parking on site. You can see, and staff went over, there's the existing parking lot, there's the existing covered arena that is proposed for parking, and then there is the area for overflow parking up by in the upper right corner near the existing maintenance building, and that area was actually approved as part of the Tier 2 winery permit. So we're just adding use of the covered arena for some additional parking. And the analysis, our traffic analysis, confirms that the site plan can park on the site for the up to 500-foot level. Shuttles came up in the discussion, and the winery has used shuttles before, but we aren't proposing them now because we know the site can accommodate the traffic on the parking on site, and that's been confirmed by our analysis. However, the winery is not opposed to using shuttles if the event chooses to, or if that is a requirement for this project. But yes, they do have experience using shuttles in the past. But overall, given the experience of the winery with events on the site, the management knows how it works, how it flows, knows that it can be accommodated, and what is needed to make a success. And the project includes a parking management plan, which implements all the county's standard requirements, including having parking monitors on site for events over 100. The owner has carefully assessed the existing space and property to accommodate use of the accommodate additional events and the increased capacity. We know through the studies conducted that the 40 events can be accommodated without triggering any impacts. Staff went through the detailed analysis, and I'm sure, like I mentioned, we do have ATE here today remotely, that if you have more questions related to that analysis, I'm sure that he can respond. But we do know, I wanted to add that the traffic study factored in a growth factor, a cumulative growth factor for other wineries and event venues to ensure that growth at this winery plus growth at other locations in the future won't trigger impacts to the community. And then the noise study also shows that noise thresholds are not triggered. There were no conditions from other departments except standard fire department conditions. In sum, Brick Barn is a great local business with a history of supporting the community and giving back. This request has been a long time in the works as Brick Barn Winery has thoughtfully contemplated the best use of their property. The owner wants to continue to grow and support their wine membership and be able to offer special events that are responsive to the needs of the community and industry. They also want to continue to grow as a third place people will think of to relax, unwind, connect, and engage on weekdays and weekends. For all the reasons we've provided, we think that Brick Barn, this is the right fit for Brick Barn, and we're trying to do the right thing by bringing it to your commission. We request your support through your approval of the Tier 3 winery and CUP. We are available for questions, and as I noted, we have the noise consultant as well as the traffic consultant available remotely if you have questions specifically for them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I am going, before you leave, and I'm not sure if you want to have you or the transportation consultant do this, but can you pull up your overflow parking thing and just explain to me the circulation on that? I understand that you're going to have a parking monitor that I assume will also be a circulation monitor with a large event, even, you know, even for your description of not just 500, but even the 250. Yeah, 250 and above. I would suggest that you're probably going to need a valet attendant and someone to actually monitor that. So,
Yes.
but I'm not finding that in the conditions. So,
It should be in the parking management plan that talks about specifically, and I think that is written as one of the conditions towards the end of the document.
okay.
It's in there, so over 100, there would be a parking attendee and valet parking as well. It's
Over
listed in
100,
there. I don't
okay.
have the conditions in front of me right now, but
Okay,
I know
and-
that it's in there. But yes, so, and there's signage too. The parking management plan also includes signage that directs visitors to where that special event parking would be. So they would basically pull through, so that on the lowest end of the screen is the existing winery parking lot. There's parking there. They can pull through where the red line goes and either be directed all the way out to the field or valeted all the way out to the field. They would drop off, let me take back. So valet, they would drop off in that first parking lot, and then the valet would take the cars out to the field. If it's a smaller event, there's circulation where they would go up that red line. They can go into the covered arena. They could take a left into the covered arena. If that's full, they can then take a right to loop around and then go up into the overflow parking for smaller events. But we do have the valet available. And they have a valet company that you use. They're very familiar with it, that they've done valet for their 150-person events.
And 150 is your largest event now, right?
Yes, we are
Okay.
currently allowed to have 800, 8 events up to 150 people, as well as events up to 79.
But the valet function doesn't use this overflow area right now, right? You just use the,
No, we have used the overflow area. That whole overflow area up by the maintenance building was approved as part of the Tier 2. Because currently we're not using the covered arena. That's the new proposed part. So currently what we're using is the winery parking lot in the lowest part of the screen and the overflow parking that was approved by the Tier 2. We're now, as part of this proposal, we're adding that covered arena to just, because it's just has been open storage. So we're using that as an additional area for parking.
okay. Okay, I think my other questions are probably for staff. Well, actually, for the transportation consultant is,
May I add one more thing I just thought of? Related to compliance with the conditions, and maybe this goes back to staff, there's a conditions for compliance reporting, and it was my understanding that we were going to have to report on the number of events and, throughout the year.
it's not the way it's
Yeah.
phrased.
So there's
Really?
no, we're required to do compliance monitoring. So we have to pay that application for the compliance application.
That's
And-
true, but there's no report required. So maybe we get back into that during condition discussions.
Okay. Excellent.
Right, yeah.
Do you want to pull up ATE?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can we take a break?
Sure. Yeah, why don't we take a 10-minute break? Body break. Cece at the Coastal Commission. I'm just trying to get the room back. We could have gone for coffee at this point. Okay, thank you everyone for that break. We're going to continue, and I think the logical thing is for me to ask a couple questions of ATE, and I know then there's a couple other questions from a few commissioners before we're done with the applicant's response to questions. So do we have her, Ms. Harrison, yeah. So my question's for ATE, so whether he's on the phone or not, I just wanted to confirm the way I'm reading these results, which is a lot of good data cited in the report, and it sounds like, I mean, we have level of service A and B, we have a very detailed estimation of trip generation per the type of event you're requesting, and then the analysis in terms of consistency was all done on an average of that. Did I get that? Or is it, because on one of them I saw, even with the 500-person events, it wasn't exceeding a threshold, or it was still consistent with policy. So can someone help walk me through that? And maybe it's because I read it too fast, but do you understand what I'm saying? You have a 500-person event and you have other categories, and the ending project consistency is based on an average of those, or is it based on the 500, or what exactly?
Madam Chair, I can take the answer to
Okay.
this question. So for CEQA, under the thresholds, the way the data is analyzed is based on an annual average daily trips. So they take they compile all of the daily trips for each of the different uses, add them up, and then divide that by 365. So to answer your question directly, the 500 event 500-person event is divided up amongst the year. That's for CEQA to determine whether or not there would be a significant impact or need for vehicle miles traveled analysis. Separately, the project is also subject to policies, and so the traffic analysis did an analysis of level of service, and so that is a different analysis that does not look at an average over the year, but actual the cumulative impact of everything at one time. So it would look at the 500 maximum person event, and it did. And as Ms. Volpe had on the screen, it showed that for that event, it would lower the LOS from A to C temporarily during that event.
During a 500-person event, right. So where is the annual average ADT in the report? Somehow I missed that, because I'm seeing all of the trip gen things on table 3, from 150 to 500 events, and they're coming up with a total, ADT. So what is the annual average? Where is that cited in here? Including employees and everything that they've calculated.
Madam Chair, it is on page 12 of the transportation analysis.
Oh, after accident and violence. Oh, okay, here we go. Annual average of 68. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, I think that's reasonable. Well, but that's based on an annual average of 68 ADT, so average daily trips based on an averaging of all of the events, yeah. Okay.
24,000 figures in the same report for the cumulative for the year.
And that does not include just the existing winery tasting. So they're open for regular, maybe there's 50 people. When I was there on Saturday, there were probably 50 or 60 people while I was there, but this is just a delta of 68 ADT, correct?
That is correct. This does not include the baseline.
Okay. That was my only question on it. And then I'm just going to trust the valet attendant and the circulation plan on the large events. I've already been doing it for 150, so with 500, it's just going to be more staff and, okay. And everything else would have in a deliberation. So I think there's maybe another question from Commissioner Park.
Yeah, I had questions for Ms. Harrison. So the first one is, just speaking of deltas, I like that phrase. So we want to know where you're going from where you are today to where you will be. And we don't know where you are today. We don't know what's allowed. So can you describe how many events you have and of what size currently? I know that you probably need to do that in general sense, but I'd like to hear your best answer.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Commissioner Park. With the Tier 2 winery, we are permitted to have 8 events up to 150 in attendance. In addition to that, in the Tier 2, it states that we can have up to 50 that are not special events, meaning 79 attendees or fewer. However, as staff mentioned, that's really unlimited because it's not a special event.
That's telling me what the ordinance says. I'm asking you, what do you do now? What actually happens in practice? So that I can say to people with a straight face, it's going to go from X to Y. That's the delta. I'm using too many letters, aren't I? But
Yeah, it is, Commissioner Park, it's my understanding that we've stayed within those 8 special events. I think there have been moments where it's fluctuated a little higher than 150, but we haven't, the Brick Barn has not held, 500-person events or anything significant, to my knowledge. And I think that they have frequent events throughout the week related to the comedy night and other themed events, and they have like the SpaceX launch watching parties that are also under 80. And I think that any events that they have are spread out throughout the year. I'm not sure if you have a specific
I got to try
question.
again the third time.
Okay.
I'm not accusing your clients of going over the limit, okay? You might be under the limit. And since the limit is so kind of hazy with respect to under 80, I'd just like to know, in reality, how many events? And so if you might have 3 that are over 80. You might have
I see.
8.
You want to know,
I don't know.
not how many are allowed, but how many we've held.
Right, because I
Like
can
in
ask
the
staff
last
how many
year.
allowed. I'm asking you how many
Yeah.
actually occur.
Yeah. I would have to check with the client.
And I know you have Wine Wednesday and you have other things, and there's, probably 50 or more smaller ones.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I don't know whether you go up to your 8 right now or
No,
not. And that would
always.
help me to determine, okay, what's the best number to go in the future. It's
correct.
It's just something that we would consider.
Sure, I appreciate, thank you for breaking that down for me. I appreciate your question. Yes, the Brick Barn is not always meeting the 8. Sometimes it is 1 or 2, sometimes it's more. And as I mentioned in the presentation, this is just a forward-looking plan for the family as a sole proprietorship to ensure that the winery can continue to be a big part of the Buellton community and keep the winery and the family long-term. And looking at the ordinance, going through any kind of review process, they have 8 events allowed right now. And so going through any kind of review process for the 4 additional, it's a big investment to just have the 4 additional events, given that per the winery development code, the maximum is 40. And then we did our analysis to find out that this site can accommodate the 40 events. It was in the owner's interest for the long term to request the 40 for just long-term flexibility, and also, as I mentioned, just having the opportunities out into the community for the different size. So they have had smaller events and limited to 150, but if they're able to market for some of these larger events, maybe that can bring in a different industry or organization or a corporate retreat or maybe a wedding, even though they're limited to 8.
I think that I've kind of
Open the door.
opened Pandora's box here with what I thought was a simple question, but you're going to have plenty of time and rebuttal to address other things. But let me go to my other question. And you made a point when you're showing us your presentation, and I hope we can bring that back up. Can we bring that back up? Anyway, you made a point about cumulative growth, and I thought it referred to potential for other wineries and so forth, and it caused me to perk my ears, but I'm not sure I totally comprehended what you were saying. And it was on your second to the last slide.
Related to the analysis.
Should we start it at the other end?
It's here. Second to
I
last.
think it's the one that said traffic cumulative analysis plus 10% over 5 years. And I thought you were talking about other establishments as well, or what were you? Could you take what you uttered and elaborate on it?
The cumulative analysis, that comes from the traffic analysis report, and they took a look at the county's cumulative list, plus did a conservative plus 10% over 5 years to see how this project with events, whether there would be any impacts primarily along Highway 246 on the travel lanes as well as at the intersection. And the conclusion of that is that 246 continues to operate at LOSA, and the intersection operates at LOSC or better for those times when there are, the study was done primarily at the 500-person event. The largest event was evaluated.
And when you refer to the county's cumulative list, would you just use that term? You're talking about the same cumulative list that Ms. Volpe testified about, where it had 11 out of the 300 wineries in the county on that list?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So, well, we can all discuss that, but that's conservative for
Yeah, I
everything
mean,
else.
it's a
It is
standard-
what it is. At least now we know what you talked about.
It's a standard pending projects list that you do under CEQA, right? So
Yeah.
maybe not everything in the county, but within the area of study.
Well, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Reed? No,
Yeah, just a little
Don't-
clarification.
For Ms. Harrison?
Yes.
Don't go.
Fine. Just, I want to get back to, we talked about the events, and I had thought, based on our prior thing, that most of the events were going to be sponsored by the winery for members, but sounds like I'm incorrect. Sounds like a number of the events you do are corporate events, those sorts of things, or you mentioned corporate retreats, SpaceX launch parties, things like that. Now, are those created and promoted by the winery, or is it going to be available, say, for a local company who is a member, or the president is a member, to essentially bring 100 of their employees and customers in, do that sort of an event? Is that also included in what you call an event?
Commissioner Reed, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So currently, I don't believe we've had corporate retreats. Most of the events up to 150 have been wine pickup parties or other wine-themed events, as well as other events throughout their other under 80-person attended gatherings that are not special events, such as the SpaceX launch watching parties, as well as comedy nights that are sponsored by the winery. In terms of corporate retreats, that's why they are interested in having some of those larger events too, to kind of see, maybe it's possible that all events will still continue to be under 150, but this gives the flexibility to market to different organizations, whether it's a big awards banquet dinner for a community organization, or a seminar, or a wine seminar. Any of the events would be wine themed. That any event that books with Brick Barn would be serving Brick Barn wine only, and the event would have to be centered around the wine. And we would want to only have organizations that meet the brand of Brick Barn, like not, it is open to the public, whoever wants to come, book an event, but it's going to be something that, obviously has to be Brick Barn themed and wine themed event. Yeah.
Okay, and then just further, with respect to events and parking, the number of parking places you have, I look through this slide and I come up with 233, is that correct?
Yes, I think 233 is correct.
Or close to it, maybe
Yeah.
I added wrong.
Commissioner Reed to the chair, 223 is what we have on site.
Okay, all right, because I'm just thinking with a 500-person event, of course, most people come probably in twos or
2.63? is in the report.
So thank you, and there's going to be some control. The only part, they're not going to have people parking along the roads or 246, anything like that, only in designated space, and that will be policed.
And that will be, excuse me?
Policed, I mean, you'll,
Yes,
your
that's
staff
correct.
will
Yes,
ensure
there is
that.
signage currently, and there will be additional signage through the parking management plan to say no parking along the fire lane, coming into the winery, and then directing patrons to where the parking is. And if there is a valet, then they would pull up to the valet station.
Okay, and then with respect to that neighbor that's 165 feet away, you do have, I don't have to see it.
Yeah.
But you do have some sort of hard documentation and
We
email.
have an email from the neighbor
Okay.
confirming her support, and that
Okay.
she had intended to write a letter. And as I mentioned, they're out of town, so I'm assuming escaped them.
Well, anything we can do to eliminate or reduce the possibility of
We have a
another
great, just so
appeal
you know,
of
we have a great
anything.
working relationship with them. And
appreciate-
if they did have any issues, they are happy to reach out to Brick Barn. Brick Barn is super responsive, so they have a very,
Oh, good.
Okay,
good
thank
working
you.
relationship.
Thank you very
I think we
much.
have one more question from Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Harrison, I have heard reference to we can have this many people with this kind of plan, and assume that's the way you've been operating. And my question is, do you ever count the people, and have you ever, at least as far as you've been told, said to someone, gosh, we appreciate you coming, but we already have limited, we have our limit of people, and so we won't be able to accommodate you. In other words, the whole idea of the application is to increase business, to become more successful, to be able to do some things that haven't been possible up to now. And I'm concerned, how does the county respond if they don't get a complaint? And I'd prefer it that they not get a complaint, that the applicant would say, we are subject to these limits, and we can't accommodate your coming at this time, either in advance or when they show up.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Cooney. The events are ticketed, so there's always a record of who's coming and how many, which is something that can also move forward for future events as well. And wine tasting typically is reservation only during the week when it's quieter. They do welcome walk-ins, but in terms of increasing the number of events, Brick Barn is good at using their website. So I think that in their calendar is usually filled out in terms of information available. I think there's an opportunity to include notices there that if there's a special event, they can say, special event this day, reservation only, and possibly even put signage at the gate or when people come in to let them know private event, wine tasting is limited today.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Harrison. I know there was a lot of Q&A, but with that, I think I'm going to close the Q&A to the applicant, and we would actually go to the public comment period, but I'm not sure that we have anyone. I don't have any slips.
For those of us joining online, if you'd like to speak on this item, raise your virtual hand and I'll call on you. We do have one speaker,
All right,
Kathleen Rosenthal.
and we're hoping that you can limit it to 3 minutes, our kind of max public comment period.
I will try. Thank you very much. Madam Chair and Planning Commissioners, my name is Kathy Rosenthal. I represent We Watch. We are an environmental group here in the Santa Ynez Valley. We keep tabs on how our valley is being developed and other pertinent ordinances and plans that go with that. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank staff and commissioners for helping us understand this project a bit better than we did. We were quite pressed to get a coherent review done, given so much goes into this application. I'm obligated to read our remarks. Some of this is repetitive, but I do thank you for your broad questioning and answers. So,
Ms. Rosenthal, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. Please do not read the letter. We've all received the letter from We Watch. So if you want to summarize it, that's fine.
Sure.
I just gave you an extra 15 seconds by speaking, so go forward.
Okay, all right, I'll read that. We Watch, which focuses on the valley's well-being, recognizes that the economic health of its wineries is important. With the wine industry being somewhat less robust at this time, diversification of its economic base is a logical response. But Brookbine Winery is the first winery to ask for a tier change since the AEO was adopted, so it's important that your commission examine this application carefully as it will be setting precedent. This is a complex application requiring study of several land use documents, as well as project elements themselves, which may require delaying approval to allow adequate study and assessment time for your commission. Please consider, given the following issues, there are current EIR-related documents. Are the current EIR-related documents sufficient for analysis, especially cumulative impacts on the site and its neighborhood? For instance, is a 165-foot setback from its neighbor on the west rather than 400 feet justified? And given the proposed reduction in setback from the neighbors, should amplified music be allowed until 10 p.m. or when the AEO requires at 9 p.m.? What are the trade-offs? What are the current and proposed numbers of parking spaces on site, and how many are needed to accommodate event parking at the site? The Highway 246 speed limit is 65 miles per hour, so are no parking signs needed on 246? How many vehicles can safely enter and exit the winery within a short time, especially exiting when alcohol is served? And with a request for concurrent wine tasting and special events for 350 guests with no wine tasting attendees number, more information is necessary to determine the number of guests on site at one time. Are the requested Tier 3 number and size of events reasonable for this site, or are lower figures needed? Thanks to staff for attaining the Tier 1, 2, and 3 totals for our information. We appreciate that. Finally, how will the winery control the number of guests using permanent restrooms when wine tasting and events run concurrently? And does that number exceed the wastewater treatment system capacity requiring the use of portable restrooms? This concludes our summary, and we thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone else for public comment?
No additional requests to speak.
All right, with that, I'll close the public comment period and bring it back to the commission for deliberations. And before we can start on that, I just want to say everybody in the room who's here for the next item, item number 3, we will probably get through the staff presentation, may not get through public testimony before our lunch break, so just be aware that you might have to come back after the lunch hour. Okay, deliberations. Who wants to start off? Commissioner Park, rather.
Yes, I want to tell you what I want to do first, and then I want to explain why. I think that's the way to go.
Commissioner Park?
Oh.
I may have blown it. Did staff have something to respond to from?
Oh, that's right.
Madam Chair, we do. So staff has prepared a condition of approval in response to some of the questions that were relayed to us in terms of the number of attendees for the events. So so Ms. Volpe has put that up on the screen, and staff has reviewed this proposed condition with the applicant team, and they are aware of it and are willing to comply with it.
Sounds like they'll have a monthly newsletter to neighbors.
And then commissioners, this is stuff we've put on other winery CUP events too. That's what this is based on. So it's very consistent.
Okay. Back to Commissioner Park.
Okay. In the very general sense, I support this project. I think it is a lovely site. I think it reflects the the affection that the owners have for what they're doing there. And they are people that have, there's a great deal of respect for them as business people and as citizens in the area. That being said, I do not support and cannot support approval of this project as it exists today. I want to get to where we could get. I know that the number here for special events is something that be of great sensitivity in District 3. If folks were following the Ag Enterprise Ordinance throughout, we started from a point where in counting noses at the Board of Supervisors, I knew that there were very significant votes for no events whatsoever allowed under the AEO. And I kept talking and talking and talking, and we got it up to where it is today. So, if you need to read between the lines, you can see that going from where we were at the ATO, which was quite an achievement, to 40 is going to mean that if I just said, sure, approve it today, you're going to have a difficulty at the next stage. So what I aim for is to do as much work at our level to get something that's acceptable to everyone and acceptable to the applicants, to the community, and to the decision makers. And because I want to do that, I want to move to continue this matter, and I want to specifically work on the number, and I want to work on the definition of special events as it exists in the restrictions in the project description, because I find that the project description does not match what I understood to be the applicant's intent when I met along with Mr. Reed at the winery. So I would want to work on those things in particular, and maybe something else, but those in particular. So that will be my motion to continue this. Otherwise, I will have to vote against it if we are going to vote today.
Next up, Commissioner Reed.
Yeah, I think it's a very attractive site, and the project has great potential. I would really like to know a little more about the parking and the sizes of the events, but like Commissioner Park, I see the jump from 8 events to 48 events to be quite substantial, and I think it really warrants an expanded look at the nature of those events and the frequency, and in order to accommodate the neighborhood and the community. So I would be in support of what Commissioner Park has proposed.
Commissioner Cooney?
Well, I've learned a lot about the project. I think it's been well presented by staff and by the applicant, and some of my initial concerns have been alleviated. I want to acknowledge the participation of WeWatch. They know from prior events and projects that this commission does pay attention to WeWatch as a representative of our views, at least for the most part, throughout the San Ynez Valley. Having said that, I don't want to oppose my fellow commissioners, North County commissioners, who are seeking to get a finer hold of the conditions that are adopted. So I would vote to agree with the continuance for a reasonable time.
Okay, and I have some thoughts, but I want to clarify with Commissioner Park. You wanted to continue it so that you can better define the event descriptions. That's your primary concern, and possibly the number and size of them?
Yes, I would. the two things I remembered the best from my own consideration were a better definition of what's going to be allowed in those events, because we started with the statutory definition and then we backed off on 8 of them to just wedding. And I want to see more work on that, but also the numbers. But I do recall that other commissioners pointed out things that they would like to see addressed as well. Mr. Reed, for example, said it would be good to have a letter or something from that Western neighbor. And so I don't mean to foreclose discussion of what any other commissioners had in mind. I just focused on the two biggest ones for me.
Sure. Okay, so I come from the South Coast in an area that includes the Funk Zone and Isla Vista, so my reality is probably a little bit skewed. However, I completely defer to the Home District Commissioner on this, and as much as I could maybe go with this, I think it's okay to take a little more time to refine it. I want to be sure that the owner and the applicant understands that doesn't mean we don't like the project and there's not a finish line here. It's just clarifying it so everyone has certainty. And in my opinion, I think there should be a condition compliance condition all on its own, not sprinkled through some of the other condition that says the applicant shall submit a compliance report every year for the scheduled of events that you have and what those numbers were and what date they were. And maybe that's only there for 3 to 5 years, so the public can go to permit compliance and ask for it, so the commissioner can go back and ask for it, so the owner can actually track it. Because that kind of a compliance report, we used to have conditional use permits that were incredibly complicated, and you had to go back to the planning commission and report on it. Not that. But because this is the big enchilada that this applicant is trying to do, and I understand that's a burden, and I appreciate that they are very forward-thinking, having a condition compliance condition like that would be helpful for me personally to approve it. So as much as we saw the additional language, that's great, but maybe you also need a second one. As a minor contrary view, when we start defining events at a place like a winery too narrowly, it really concerns me, because what happens if in 5 years there's like an iPhone club that nobody knew was going to pop up and all of a sudden they wanted to be at the winery and they had a 50-person event. So if we don't define that, I'm concerned about it. I think the key is weddings, but other, social fraternal events, whatever the description is, it's general that you can be pivot for the right thing. The comedy club, for example, would hate for you to define that, but to get a better feeling for it and who's going to be there. Also, the daily use, I think, is very reasonable and no one's complained. I want us to remember that. And if we have this letter from the nearby neighbor, that's even more convincing. We have not seen anything from the city of Buellton. Caltrans is completely fine with the street. I don't think that there's any issue with the traffic and even the projected traffic with a 500-person event. I want to really do a shout out to ATE for doing such a thorough analysis, because they looked at every single component of this project and did a calculation for what that was going to be like at the driveway and on 246. And there is no issue. You're barely going to reach LOSC for 3 hours a year, right? So that's not an issue, the traffic. I just think what I'm hearing from Commissioner Park, and I'll support the continuation motion, is to try to get the description a little bit more tied down. Probably might look for a slightly lesser number, but I'll leave that to how it is continued in returns. Does that help staff to understand what we're looking for when you come back? And I saw you flashing the projection schedule around. Recognize that thing. So what are we looking at?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, if the Commission makes a motion for a continuance, the recommendation is to reschedule it or continue it to October 8th, which is a Santa Maria hearing. And that gives staff time and the applicant time to work through these issues and prepare whatever supplemental documents is needed and have those submitted for the Commission's review prior to the hearing.
Then I'll move to continue it to October 8th.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Very good, let's do a roll call.
Commissioner Cooney,
Aye.
Commissioner Park,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Chair Bradley.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, great. Wake up. Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break for staff to switch out. Read it. Yes, please read this into the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The following is a hearing on the request of Constellation Land Development LLC to consider case numbers 23 TPM3, 23 GPA2, 23 RZN2, 23 DVP11, 24 DVP20, and to consider the State California Environmental Quality Act guidelines sections 15168C4 and 15183, checklists for the 2023-2031 Housing Element Update PEAR build-out, and recommend that the Board of Supervisors determine that all of the environmental impacts of the project are within the scope of the project covered by the Programmatic Environmental Impact Report 23 EIR4, and that the previously certified PEIR is adequate and that no subsequent environmental review is required pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15162, 15183, and 15168C4.
Great. Do we have ex parte disclosures for this? Commissioner Reed.
Yes, I visited the site yesterday with the agents and the owners and the applicant.
Okay, Commissioner Park?
And do we even make ex parte? Did I hear this is legislative or something a moment ago? It doesn't matter. I want to report when I had a phone conversation with Mr. Simmons, who works with Ms. Tamura, and which I really enjoyed. It was fine, wide-ranging, and he gave me a really good amount of information and well-organized. So I thought I should give a little shout-out for Mr. Simmons. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also talked to Pete Simmons last Friday about the project, and then did a site visit on Saturday, looking at the property and its surroundings. Okay, so with that, we will proceed with staff's report.
All right. Good morning, Chair Bridley and members of the Commission. My name is Tina Mitchell, and today I'll be presenting the Constellation Land Development Project. The project site is a 5.16 acre vacant lot located off of Constellation Road near the center of Vandenberg Village. As shown on this map, the project site is currently Zone C2, which stands for retail commercial. The properties surrounding the site are also Zone C2, except the property to the north-northwest, which is Zone Design Residential with a max of 20 units per acre. The project site is relatively flat with slopes of less than 10%. Historical aerials show that all vegetation was cleared from this site in the 1970s. Some vegetation has grown back, but it's considered degraded quality since there are disturbed areas, non-natives, and invasive plants throughout the site. Of the habitat types on site, coast live oaks and Burton Mesa chaparral are considered sensitive. There are currently 33 mature coast live oaks on the site and 2.63 acres of degraded Burton Mesa chaparral. The site would be cleared to accommodate the project, and to compensate for this at the ratio required by the Lompoc Area Guidelines for degraded Burton Mesa chaparral, habitat restoration is proposed off-site about 1 mile away on a property that's adjacent to the Burton Mesa Ecological Reserve. Trees would be replaced both on-site and at the off-site location. There are no drainage features, wetlands, or riparian habitat within the project site or its immediate vicinity. And zooming out here to show the project site in the context of the surrounding area. This is an infill site in the commercial core that has no unobstructed connections to the open space areas that surround Vandenberg Village. And this image also illustrates the difference in habitat quality between this site and those open space areas. The proposed project includes the following entitlement requests: a tentative parcel map to subdivide the property into 2 relatively equal-sized lots, a general plan amendment to change the land use designation on parcel 2 from general commercial to residential 30 units per acre max, a zoning map amendment to change the zone on parcel 2 from C2 to DR30, a development plan for an extended stay hotel on parcel 1, and a development plan for a 60-unit multifamily residential apartment project on parcel 2. Shown here is a site plan for the proposed project. Parcel 1 with the hotel is on the left, which is the western side of the lot, and parcel 2 with the residential project is on the right, or the eastern side of the lot. The proposed extended stay hotel is a 3-story structure that will contain 87 guest rooms with a total floor area of approximately 50,000 square feet. Hotel amenities for guests will include an outdoor swimming pool and spa, laundry facilities, a fitness center, and a breakfast area. 12 bike parking spaces and 103 vehicle parking spaces are provided on site, which exceeds the amount required by the county for a hotel of this size. 12 full-time employees and 6 part-time employees will staff the hotel, including guest services, housekeeping, and maintenance. Here are some visuals of the hotel as viewed from the west, which is the view from the Village Shopping Center, and from the north, which is the view from Constellation Road. The maximum height of the proposed structure is 38 feet and 2 inches, and this is above the 35-foot height limit, so there's a request for a modification through the development plan to increase the height limit for the hotel. However, that full 3-foot 2-inch increase isn't needed in all places, as shown here with the blue dashed lines. It's a little hard to see, but there are some tower architectural elements that exceed the maximum height with the proposed modification, but this is allowed by exceptions provided in the land use code. The hotel design was reviewed conceptually by the North Board of Architectural Review, and it will need to return for preliminary and final approval from NBAR prior to issuance of a zoning clearance. Transitioning now to the residential component of the project, there are 60 apartments proposed within 3 buildings. Each building will contain 20 units, and overall the project will include 24 one-bedroom units that will be approximately 800 square feet each, and 36 two-bedroom units, approximately 1,200 square feet each. The development will include a clubhouse with amenities for residents like a gym and lease office. 40% of the total site area is provided as common open space, including landscaping, walking paths, a playground, and a sport court. 78 vehicle parking spaces and 30 bike parking spaces are provided on site for residents and their guests. All 60 units will be offered for rent only and are anticipated to be rented at market rate value, which is projected to be within the moderate income level of affordability in the Lompoc housing market area. Here are some visuals of building types 1 and 2, as well as the clubhouse as viewed from the front. The apartment buildings are stepped buildings that are primarily 2-story with a 3-story component in the middle. And the maximum height will not exceed the 35-foot limit. The residential project is exempt from design review by NBAR, but its design is consistent with the applicable objective design review standards from the Land Use Code. Here's a simulation showing both the hotel and residential components side by side. As is shown here, the project will include landscaping to screen all parking areas from views along Constellation Road and the neighboring properties. As was previously mentioned, the residential component of this project necessitates a general plan amendment and rezone of parcel 2 in order to allow the multifamily residential use as designed, which would not be allowed under the current commercial zone and designation. Although the applicant is proposing a designation and zone that allows up to 30 units per acre, the site would not be developed to the maximum intensity. The developed density of this project would be approximately 23 units per acre. The project site is not located within a community plan area. However, the Board of Supervisors adopted the Lompoc Area Interpretive Guidelines in 1999 to help implement the Lompoc Area goals in the comprehensive plan. The project is consistent with these guidelines, including those for habitat restoration, access to commercial areas, and provision of on-site recreation, as well as the rest of the policies in the comprehensive plan. With requested modifications, the proposed project is also consistent with all LUDC requirements, including setbacks, height limits, parking, and screening requirements. 2 modifications to development standards from the LUDC are being requested. The first one, which I previously mentioned, is to allow the height of the hotel to exceed the 35-foot height limit. The other modification is a request to allow the light levels along the shared property line between the hotel and residential project to exceed the 0.2 foot candle standard that's in the land use code. The photometric plans provided show a maximum of 0.6 foot candles along this property line, and this area would only contain parking and landscaping. Residential and commercial development on the project site was included in and analyzed by the most recent Housing Element Updates programmatic EIR as an inventoried site. The PEIR analyzed the impacts of the build-out of all inventoried and rezoned sites and provided numerous mitigation measures to reduce impacts. To ensure the project complied with the mitigation measures from the PEIR, the applicant provided several studies and reports, including those listed here, a tree replacement plan, habitat restoration plan, construction traffic and access management plan, transportation demand management plan, traffic study, noise study, and a solid waste management plan, among others. All of these studies concluded that the project would have a less than significant impact on the environment, with the exception of vehicle miles traveled, which I'll go into more detail about on the next slide. Furthermore, the Constellation site's anticipated build-out that was analyzed in the PEIR and the housing element was 60 multifamily units and approximately 50,000 square feet of commercial development, which is essentially full development of this lot. The project before you today is consistent with that anticipated build-out. As a result, staff has utilized CEQA Section 15168 to prepare a checklist that ensures that the proposed project conforms with the mitigation measures set forth in the PEIR and determined that no subsequent environmental review was necessary. In addition, the project was analyzed using CEQA Section 15183 to determine the project is consistent with the development density established by the Housing Element Update, and to confirm that there are no effects that are peculiar to the project that were not addressed by the PEIR. This analysis confirmed that the project is consistent with the density and effects analyzed by the PEIR, and therefore no subsequent environmental review is required. So after implementation of the PEIR mitigation measures, one Class 1 impact will remain for vehicle miles traveled. The PEIR anticipated significant impacts related to VMT, and the project will not result in an increase in the severity of those anticipated significant effects that were identified in the PEIR. The project incorporates the transportation demand management measures described in mitigation measure T1 to reduce vehicle trips to and from the project site, including bike parking, pedestrian connections, and a public transit pass program that will provide a 50% discount to residents. These measures will result in a 39% reduction in VMT. The statement of overriding considerations that the board adopted when they certified the PEIR was limited to the selected rezone and county-owned sites. Therefore, in order to approve this project, the Board of Supervisors must adopt a statement of overriding considerations, which is included as finding 1.4 in attachment A of the staff report. Because the project includes a general plan amendment and a rezone, the final decision maker for this project will be the Board of Supervisors. Based on this information, this slide and the next slide show staff's recommendations, which are to recommend that the Board of Supervisors make the required findings for approval of the project specified in Attachment A of the staff report, including CEQA findings and the Statement of Overriding Considerations. Determine the previously certified PEIR is adequate and no subsequent environmental review is necessary. Adopt the resolutions included as attachments E and F of the staff report to document the PC's recommendation to change the land use designation and zoning on parcel 2 from commercial to residential. And recommend that the Board of Supervisors approve the parcel map, the development plan for the hotel, and the development plan for the multifamily residential project with the requested modifications. Lastly, there are a few minor corrections that I'd like to point out. First, the amount of impervious surface noted in the project description is incorrect. However, the amount noted on sheet A.01 of the plans is correct, and we have those corrected numbers on the screen here. Additionally, staff would like to add language to condition 25 of the map and condition 29 of the residential development plan. The language is identical for these two conditions, and they are in regards to title to common open space. And the edit is just to clarify that these conditions are only applicable to the residential lot, which is parcel 2. These edits will be applied to the conditions of approval after the hearing. And I'll lastly mention that the applicant requested to remove these two conditions, 25 and 29, in a letter to the Planning Commission. However, the condition language is derived directly from the DR zone development standards in the LUDC to preserve common open space. So staff's recommendation is to keep these conditions. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions. I believe we also have Will Robertson from Public Works available for transportation questions. And then, of course, the applicant team is here. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions from my commissioners for staff? Commissioner Reed.
Well, thank you for a very, I think, very expert, complete, and comprehensive presentation. I think the issues I see, the raising of the height limit and the variation in the light intensity both seem rather insignificant given the totality of the project. It seems to be well suited to the site. The site accommodates it well. I do appreciate the fact that it seemed, as I recall, during the housing element, the earlier discussions for this project, it's been modified considerably to accommodate community input, both with respect to placement of the buildings and appearance. So I appreciate that. But with respect to this, it seems that a very important element is the one significant impact, the increase in vehicle miles traveled, and the statement of overriding considerations. Could you give us a more complete rundown, like beginning with section 1.4 of the statement of overriding considerations and how that exactly plays out?
Yes, Commissioner Reed through the chair. So I'll go back to the housing element and just state that the housing element PEIR covers all inventoried sites, and this is an inventoried site, but it wasn't a rezone site. And the statement of overriding considerations that was adopted with the housing element update PEIR only covered those rezone sites and the county-owned sites. So in order to approve this project, you would have to do a new statement of overriding considerations for that one VMT impact. And finding 1.4 includes kind of reasoning and what the benefits of the project would be that override the that one impact. And they did incorporate the full mitigation measure requirements, and it reduced it fairly close to our threshold as shown on that slide, but there is still a little bit of additional impact.
small but substantially accommodates that impact, almost a level of insignificance. Okay, and it does point out in the statement that it does provide an extended stay hotel, and I think the public comment letters actually speak to and support the foundational facts for that statement of overriding considerations. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Park?
I had a couple of points I'm just going to reserve for deliberations, but I do have a procedural question. And it doesn't actually bear on whether I want to vote for this or not, but I just want to understand it. We had, I think it was last year or the year before, we initiated rezoning, voted to initiate rezoning on, it's the old PCSC property and also on FAMCO. And so this is a different process for rezoning because we're not voting to initiate the study of rezoning, which on those looked forward to taking a long time. This seems to be a different process for rezoning. I'd just like to understand that.
So I can, Chair Bradley, Commissioner Park, sorry. I think I can answer that question. In the ordinance, it provides different ways to initiate a zoning rezone or general plan amendment. The one that you mentioned is that we do an initiation process, which comes to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission reviews it. And the projects that you identified went through that process where we brought them. There's other processes where the director can initiate them themselves, or another process where the board can direct them as well. So there's a number of different ways to initiate a rezone or general plan amendment. And so this one was initiated through staff or by the director and then brought to the Planning Commission.
Sounds good to me.
Because it wasn't included in the programmatic EIR rezones, right?
Chair Bradley, members of the commission, I think part of the reasoning was that this level of development was already disclosed in that PEIR, and also it's zoning that already exists to the rear of the property. And so I think because of the proximity to that same zone district, that was probably part of the rationale by the director.
But I mean, the applicant benefited from the programmatic EIR in all other issue areas, right? We just have the one overriding on transportation. Okay, I think I follow that. Okay, any other questions, or are we good? Okay, this is the time where we would go to public actually, the applicant's presentation. What am I thinking? I'm sorry, Ms. Tamura.
Good morning. My name is Lori Tamura with Urban Planning Concepts, and we're here today with the applicant, Paresh Patel and Gilda Kodera, and I believe Paresh's father's watching the meeting, and we've been working with them for about 3 years now on this project. Along with the owners, we have a design team. You had the opportunity to talk with Pete Simmons, senior planner in our office. Bethel Engineering did the engineering for the site. Plain Air, Kevin Small's team did the landscaping. And Eris Architecture was involved in the site design and working through the Board of Architects review and responding to county planning staff's comments. We've also had others involved in this project, including ATE doing the traffic study, biologists, LSA, noise studies, and air quality analysis. So we brought everything forward to you here today in a concise and full package. I'd like to go through, is my presentation up? Oh, thank you. As noted by staff, I'm going to go quickly through our presentation. The facts are that presented here, the extended stay right now, they are looking at working with several different corporations to run the extended stay facility. As noted, we are asking for the general plan change and rezone for the residential portion. The commercial designation remains. This is the site plan as presented by Tina, and I think one of the important factors is to understand and put into context where this property is located. This is the 5-mile radius from the hotel and the new project, and it basically encompasses most of the developed areas of the Lompoc Valley. Vandenberg's main gate is 5 miles away. All of Lompoc is virtually within a 5-mile radius. Allen Hancock College, the penitentiary, there's major employment within this 5-mile radius. So although the vehicle miles traveled calculation formula inputs certain factors, it's hard to believe that we would be doing 32 miles of vehicle miles traveled when you have these kinds of opportunities within the region. And so we want that to be a consideration as noted in the statement of overriding considerations. This is the 3/4 mile radius. There's quite a lot of things that are available to the community. This is, as you can see here, an infill project. The property, Vandenberg Village, has been growing up since the early 60s. As noted by staff, this particular site was completely disked in the 70s. And so the vegetation sporadically came back. There are some oak trees there and some Burton Mesa chaparral, but there's also pampas grass and a lot of invasives. So you have a collage of vegetation in the area. The architecture has gone through 2 planning BAR reviews, and we accommodated their comments. This is the corner that you can see how the hotel would be built into the area. This is the residential portion, and it is a stepped up model so that the 3 stories in the interior of the buildings, and then you have the 2-story element. And this is what it will look like as it's completed. One of the interesting features is that the property immediately north of this site is a slice of property that was donated to the county for a community park. One of the reasons that park hasn't been developed yet is because there's no sewer line in Constellation Road that would need to be installed in order to build this park. This project needs to extend that sewer line to its site. So the park that's identified here will have a step up in actually seeing its fruition by having that infrastructure put in by the adjacent developer. So this is definitely a win-win opportunity for the county as well as for the developer to move forward with the project. As you can see, there is proposed a play area, parking lot, bathrooms, and also in the back is a native gardens area. This project has gone through a number of different meetings and hearings. This is just an outline of some of the things. The application was submitted in June of 23. NBAR meetings, there was a community meeting in September of 23 that was well attended. I think there's some people that remember that. And then we went through the housing rezoning meetings, and this project was presented as one of those that we were looking forward to being rezoned. The final hearing, the board chose not to rezone this residential portion. We did, throughout 24, either held and established a meeting or attended community meetings and presented the project and answered questions that came up. And we're here today. So we've had extensive review with the community, and we hope that we've been able to address their concerns. One of the concerns, I'll just go through a couple of the concerns. One of them was about community lighting or impacting the surrounding area. And as staff has instructed us, the new ordinance is quite extensive as far as community lighting. And so we had to redesign some of the project in order to address the candlefoot around the edge of the project. We moved a lot of the lighting more internal of the site. And the only cross-pollination of lighting is along the property line between the apartments and the hotel. And so that's where the modification is going to be. But the surrounding property lines, we meet the 0.2 foot candle requirement. We did receive our intent to serve letters from Vandenberg Community Service District, and we are working with them on the extension of that sewer line to serve this project. We have support from the adjacent commercial center. That was one of the letters that was provided. They would love to see this developed to clean up the edge between their property and the existing landscape or the existing vegetation, and also bring more business into the area. We also have a letter of support from a business across the street. We probably sent out, beyond what the county has sent out for public notices, we did have some of the lists of those that attended the previous meetings, and we sent out letters to all of those also for this meeting. So I think we've went far beyond public noticing for the region. The summary is that this is a 100% rental housing project, and the Patels have several hotels in the Lompoc area. They're experienced entrepreneurs and will be a good shepherd for this property. It's infill, has all of the classic definitions of an infill project, and it has on-site amenities and clubhouse, and it's located and surrounding with about 5 miles of most employers in the area. And then, of course, the hotel is, I think, a very good addition to this area. Not only is it going to provide bed tax to the county, which is pretty substantial, as well as benefiting the activities at Vandenberg Space Force Base. The amount of contractors that are coming there, support staff, this is going to be a real amenity for the area rather than having to either be all the way into Lompoc or in Santa Maria. It will reduce traffic. And we are also looking at assisting the community park. We do, if you don't mind, Tina, could you pull up that one modification, the condition? So it's amazing when you get a staff report and you print it all out and it's this thick and you only have one question. And that it's thank you. This condition, I know it comes from the zoning ordinance. I know this is the wording that's there, but the apartment project has one owner. They are responsible for the buildings, the common area, the parking, the landscaping. To require that a nonprofit management agreement with a third party take over the landscaping is not appropriate for apartment projects. It is totally appropriate for a condominium project or a master plan community. But to require a one-person entity, corporation, whatever, to have a nonprofit, I'm thinking as far as going to like the land trust or something, because we're not creating a homeowners association. So the application of this particular provision does not seem appropriate for an apartment project, and I've never seen this before. So we appreciate the fact that the reference to the commercial, the hotel, does not have this condition, but it should be the same. It's a one ownership operation, and a third party shouldn't be involved in this. So we're asking that the condition be deleted for both. Or if not, delete the word nonprofit and just say that a maintenance agreement will be recorded with the county or recorded on site. Because it is not appropriate to have a third party involved in this project. So we're here today to ask for approval of the project. And we also would like to respond to any comments after you receive other public comments. And I'm available for any questions.
I have one question, but Commissioner Reed, did you want to?
Oh, go ahead.
Just really quickly, the 0.6 foot candle thing, was that the prior lighting standard and we changed it, or remind me, it got harder, which I think is what Ms. Tamura is saying is why they're asking for the mod.
Chair Bradley, members of the commission, before the most recent lighting ordinance, there wasn't an established foot candle standard at the property lines, and then it went into effect, midstream for this project, and so the applicant complied with everything that we asked them to provide and documented how they'd meet it. The area where it'll go over is just the parking lot and the landscaping in the middle of the two properties.
And the owner owns both project components, so I don't need to worry about the residents being worried about that.
Yeah, we can pull up the slide that shows how the overlap is if you'd like.
No, that's okay. I did have one other question quickly about the park. I guess I'm a little bit confused where it is on your plans. So is there a slide that we can go back, and you said north of the apartment project?
Yeah, we'll bring up the aerial photograph. So this is the, keep going back. So where the area is outlined in red, that's the project site.
Yes.
Immediately north of that, you can kind of split the difference between right there where the hand is.
Yeah.
That's where the community park.
Oh, okay.
And then there's one more lot beyond that that's undeveloped, that's commercially zoned.
Okay.
And then you get to, I think Coast Hills Bank recently had an item before you for a medical center or something.
Oh.
That's the Coast Hills Bank building at that corner.
I ended up in the bank parking lots several times. Yeah. Okay. So it's the area between. Got it.
So there's actually 4 lots just along that frontage, and this project covers 2, then the park, and then one more vacant commercial lot.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Those are my only questions. Did you have something more?
Okay, a couple of questions. First, I have to applaud you for all the community meetings and all the outreach you did with local residents, as well as when I spoke with Tina, when you said the county actually greatly amplified their notification process. Usually it's 300 feet. How many people were actually notified on this?
Commissioner Reed, through the chair, it was the 300-foot requirement, but we did reach out to the Heritage Villas Seniors Apartment.
Okay, so more
staff.
Robust than what is
Right, yes.
Which is often a complaint. People say, I wasn't notified, so you went above and beyond.
Correct.
To accommodate that. I appreciate that. Now, with respect to the park, so these owners own the hotel and apartment property. They own the property on the other side. Did they donate the land for that park?
I'm sorry, say that question again.
Who donated the land for the park?
That land was donated by a gentleman named Reed Alexander about 15 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So it's in the county's ownership.
Okay, but you actually have current owners of this project have that parcel surrounded. They own the other side as well as the current parcel that's been developed. Okay. Now, because I was actually very impressed when I looked at your presentation, showed the park and how it's adjacent to the apartment project. Almost looks like an amenity to that project. So,
and that was one of the comments that I apologize to the chair. One of the initial comments was we actually had the residential on the hotel site and the hotel next to the park, and it was suggested to flip them so that the residential had more of eyes on the property. They know who was there, And so I think it ended up being a much better project.
Oh, no, I like that. It's very attractive. It kind of reminds me of some of the things we worked with down in Goleta during the housing element. And as I said, probably be very useful to children who happen to live in that area. And I do appreciate, as you said, the accommodation by extending the sewer line to that area. Now, another question I had with respect to the mitigation, you can use that remote site. Now, is that, I believe in the staff report, it says they're working toward acquiring that. What's the real actual status of that at the moment?
So there's a part of my, there's a lighting plan if you want to see. The site that we're looking at and we've studied is a 7-acre site in the Providence Landing neighborhood to the south. There is a piece of property that was part of the Providence Landing development, but it was identified as residential ranchette 5 acres. It's a 7-acre site, but it also had a designation of open space. And so it was one of the sites that is available for mitigation. There's about 8 other sites in and around the Burton Mesa Chaparral Preserve. And as you can note, the preserve is about 5,400 acres, the yellow, and then the Mission Hills State Park is about 2,000 acres. And of course, Vandenberg Air Force Base has, or Space Force Base has 1,800 or 18,000 acres of land. All of it has different quality of Burton Mesa Chaparral. In order to meet the county's requirement, we impact Burton Mesa Chaparral, we need to provide mitigation. And so we did the analysis on that site, but we did not close the deal until we have an approved project. So the conversations are moving forward with them, and that's how the condition is written.
Okay, and I just happened to notice, and thank you for I was impressed with your oak tree replacement plan. I like that. I'm really impressed with the fact that it was chosen to use 36-inch boxed oak trees, much better than the kind of scrawny seedlings some of these other projects try to use for replacement. I appreciate that. But when I was looking at the design of the park, I also noticed it's going to have a small area of the chaparral and kind of natural woodland. Have there ever been any discussions, perhaps as an alternative, if the other one would not work out, or perhaps a substitute, of doing some sort of partnering on that park as a method of mitigation?
That's a possibility. Until we have a project that we can move forward with, we aren't sure which direction to go. So we've done what we needed to do for getting to this point. The staff, we really appreciate the way the staff wrote the analysis on this particular topic, because it gives us a little bit of flexibility and breathing room to look at other options. We know that we have one site that qualifies. We've had surveys, we've done all of the cost analysis for it. It is pricey. So if there is another option, then we will work with staff and move forward with that.
Sure. Well, in my mind, on a subject for which I have no authority, seems like it could be an attractive alternative that would be quite a benefit. And
Commissioner Reed, we have
done.
5 speakers.
Yes.
I'm trying to get through public comment before we take a lunch break, which is a consensus decision too. Do you have any other questions for the applicant, or
That's my last
can you
one
hang
right
on?
now.
Okay, so it's now a couple minutes after 12, and I have 5 speaker slips. Are we okay getting through public comment now and then taking a lunch break? Is that okay with the commission or staff, or what do you want to do? Pardon? Okay, and there's 3 online, so that would be probably about 30 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In answer to your question, I think, let's do that public comment now, because depending on how long it takes and what we hear, it will sort of define how long we take to conclude this hearing. And we may, in fact, be at a point where we can conclude the hearing before lunch.
Okay. Is that okay with staff? Commissioner, everyone can hold on. Okay. So with that, we'll hold questions for staff about the applicant's presentation until later. Let's start with our public comment. And our public comment period is 3 minutes each. So we're going to start with Dennis Curran, to be followed by Philip Tarjanen. I might have that wrong. Thank you for waiting, Mr. Curran.
My pleasure.
There's one up there too. We all see your timing.
I was just wondering if I should say good morning or good afternoon. So am I okay to start?
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, Planning Commission. My name is Dennis Curran, and I'm the Vice President of Finance and Administration at Allen Hancock College in Santa Maria. I'm speaking today on behalf of the college and its president, Dr. Kevin Walters. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. Our college has proudly served the communities of northern Santa Barbara County for over 100 years. As an institution deeply rooted in this region, we are committed not only to providing high-quality education, but also to supporting the broader well-being of our students, faculty, and staff. One of the most pressing challenges we face, and I know this is not unique to us, is the ongoing shortage of affordable and accessible housing in our area. This issue affects us in very real and tangible ways. It impacts our ability to recruit and retain talented educators and staff, many of whom are forced to look outside the region for housing. It also places a significant burden on our students who struggle to find stable housing, which in turn affects their academic performance and overall well-being. That's why we view development of housing in the North County as a meaningful and much-needed step in the right direction. New developments built close to transit, parks, schools, and shopping make it especially well-suited for members of our college community. It's not just about convenience, it's about creating a more livable and inclusive environment where people can thrive. We understand that planning decisions are complex and require careful consideration, but we also believe that the urgency of the housing crisis calls for bold and timely action. We respectfully urge the Commission to continue moving forward with ventures like the Constellation Land Development Project, because it is projects like this that benefit the community and reflect the values of sustainability, equity, and inclusiveness. Thank you again for your time and for your continued commitment to making Santa Barbara County a place where everyone has the opportunity to live, learn, and grow. Thank you.
Thank you. So next we will.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Curran for coming over today. I think we always want to hear from Hancock, and this is really useful information. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Next we will have Philip Tarjanen, to be followed by Ramona Rogers, but that is spoken by Meg Mercero. Thank you. How do you pronounce your last name?
It's Philip Tabianen.
Okay.
Just say Tabianen, it's fine.
Tabianen, okay.
Good afternoon, Commission and Madam Chair. My name is Philip Tabianen. I'm from Plus Property Management. I'm speaking on behalf of Plus Property Management today. Also myself as a community member and one that was born here in Santa Barbara County. In addition, I'm also speaking on behalf of the owner of Plus Property Management. Her name is Lanae Hunter, and she has owned Plus and also has been a member of the community, in the business community, and also the real estate community since 1983. And that's when Plus Property Management's office was officially opened in Lompoc. So thank you for the opportunity for us to speak today. We support the we support the project. I read all of the letters in support, and we would echo that today. And then also, just as a community member, I would also say, we talked a little bit about the park today. I'd love to bring my children to that park. I'm there for work all the time. I bring my kids to Lompoc often, and either when I'm working or just for pleasure. And I would bring my children to that park all the time. So we'd like to see it also for the community. I think it would add value to the community. And really, in conclusion, We also believe that this project will add value to the community from an appearance perspective. The architectural design is appealing. It looks good. It's modern, and I think that would add value to the neighborhood and the business community also. In conclusion, we support it, and we'd like to see it get pushed through. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to have actually, I think Meg Mercero, and she will speak on behalf of also Ramona Rogers. So 6 minutes altogether. Just one speaker due to a voice challenge.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we have a handheld too.
Okay, let's see.
Thank you. Is that loud enough? This is Ramona Rogers, and I'm Meg Mercero. We're both residents of Vandenberg Village. We attended both those group meetings, and the residents were opposing these projects, just so that goes on record. So we're not alone in the majority of the residents who are aware of the proposed plans for Parcel 2 on Constellation Road in Vandenberg Village oppose the plans that the Urban Planning Concept Incorporated presented. It's very sad that many of the Vandenberg Village residents don't even know about the plans of a 3-story extended stay hotel and the request to change the zoning from commercial to residential for the proposed 60 townhome apartments, as no notification has been given to most of the residents of the community. We are a small, quiet, residential, single-family homes, just 1 and 2 stories, even for the condominiums, apartments, business buildings, and our beautiful remodeled Village Inn Hotel with 62 units for nightly and extended stay patrons neighborhood of just over 2,700 home residents that are directly in the village. There are a few businesses, stores, eateries. The number of these you can count on just two hands. Only 1 small market, 1 gas station, and our hotel with 62 units, 1 library, 1 grade school, 1 high school, and another continuation high school that the Lompoc Unified School District has plans to tear down and build staff housing apartments and a couple dental offices. There are no medical facilities. The sheriff and fire department are down Burton Mesa Boulevard and is shared by the Mesa Oaks and Mission Hills areas. There's currently only 3 small blocks of commercially zoned property, and there will be almost no lots available of commercial property if the 3-story extended stay hotel is built, that the current design exceeds the maximum allowable height, and the residents who attended a local meeting said that the architectural design is a terrible eyesore and does not match the rest of the community. It's incompatible with the neighborhood. It's more Spanish style, stucco style, but rather it looks like outhouses and shanties, they said, piled up on each other. And the 60-plus townhomes and apartments that they're saying to be built if it becomes residential rather than commercial. The 3-story extended stay hotels plan to be next to our proposed children's playground and park that we have donated money to for almost 20 years. There are already plans for over 300 plus apartments to be built next to the Village Inn on Apollo Way, which once again, many of the Vandenberg Village residents are unaware of. We do not have a mayor or any form of government to inform residents of developers' plans. If the few lots of commercial property are rezoned, there will be basically no commercial property left in Vandenberg Village. Of the few hundred residents who know about Urban Planning Concepts Incorporated plans, the majority of them have signed a petition opposing these projects. The majority of the residents who know about these proposed projects oppose them being built and do not want the current zoning plan for the little commercial space available in our Vandenberg Village to change to residential. We enjoy the small strip mall businesses and our new beautiful Village Inn Hotel and restaurant, which are great for the 2,700 direct residents of Vandenberg Village. If the proposed 3-story extended stay hotel and the 60-plus townhomes on Constellation Road are added to the already 300-plus apartment complex on Apollo Way, that will be the population will increase by at least 1,000 residents. There are already 500-plus homes being built on Burton Ranch, 1 mile away from the Apollo Way project. These projects will be detrimental to Vandenberg Village for many reasons. The safety, police, fire, and health safety are at risk. They are closing the Santa Lucia exit and routing the cars to turn around to go the other direction at the Constellation Road exit. There are only 2 small streets for traffic flow in and out of the village. There is not enough manpower in any of these departments, insufficient access for an insufficient number of emergency vehicles. There is already not enough law enforcement officers, firemen, and EMS workers for Vandenberg Village, let alone for the increase in population. The large increase in traffic will not be safe for children going and coming from school, the elderly and Heritage Oaks single-story homes right next to the proposed 3-story buildings, and any other pedestrians. The intersection off of Highway 1 at Constellation Road and Apollo Way is already gridlocked most of the daytime hours, as well as Constellation Road and Burton Mesa. This will increase the number of accidents at these intersections, which are already numerous. The 24-hour lighting of the hotel will be unhealthy for all residents, especially nearby seniors in the senior housing next to the projects. Our little village closes by 9 p.m. The last Colt bus is 6:40 p.m. The safety of our children at our children's playground on Constellation Road is a concern, with people able to view the children from the tall hotel and the shading from the building preventing the sun on the park. People in the hotel will be looking down on the seniors in Heritage Oaks, as well as the lack of sunlight for their homes. The emergency evacuation will be extremely detrimental, with only one way on and one way off Highway 1 in the village, with Santa Lucia needing that same exit for turning around to head north. As mentioned, there will be little, if any, available commercial space if rezoned. Buena Vista Elementary School is already at maximum capacity, and half of the school is portables instead of actual building. Children will have to be homeschooled or driven to a different school. Impact on environment and conservation. We are concerned for the preservation of the old growth oak trees, which it sounds like they may have taken into consideration. Much of our wildlife is in the areas of the urban planning concepts incorporated projects. Please let the public know of what environmental review has been done. The CRAHTAC, County Riding and Hiking Trails Advisory Committee, and the EIR need to do a review and discuss the physical environment's impacts of the proposed projects related to quality of life issues, including physical impacts to public health and welfare due to
Ms.
increased
Mercero,
overcrowding.
you've actually reached, the time limit for both of you, so.
6 minutes, thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. Okay, we will be continuing on with, Ramona Rogers. That was the second person. Okay, so I have 2 slips for that. And then Karen Havenstein? Oh, just really quickly, and after Ms. Havenstein, then Dennis Curran. Oh, no, we already had Dennis Curran. You will be the last speaker then. Thank you.
3 online.
Oh, 3 online. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Karen Hallenstein. I was born in Lompoc, and I am a North County resident. Actions have consequences. So I am here today on behalf of very concerned homeowners, residents, business owners, and future patrons of Vandenberg Village. The proposal and acceptance of these Patel Corporation-owned projects is alarming, really, due to one factor. That is a lack of effective representation per our actual property tax base impact that exists in this unincorporated area already. Our districts have recently flipped, which you are all aware of. But before that, we saw Joan Hartman set us up for failure by controlling LAFCO, the Local Agency Formation Commission. And she's stifled appropriate growth and representation to the Lompoc Valley. If you want more development, then we want more effective representation, or at least legal representation, which currently it's not. Since Joan Hartman is actually responsible for, and I'm talking about culpable to, the recent loss of $11 million in a settlement to the AMR Ambulance Corporation, with adequate legal representation of our burgeoning, rapidly developing unincorporated areas, that would never happen. Having financial, legal losses like that to our county, when Joan Hartman is an attorney who passed the bar, is
We are trying to keep this
embarrassing.
on this project, please.
No, this is
okay.
embarrassing. This is a consequence of actions.
Okay, so you've got a half a minute
I
left.
know that.
Okay.
I still have 20
I'm
seconds.
I'm listening.
Yeah. It is embarrassing, but it also smacks of corruption. Thank you for your attention and your service.
Thank you. Okay, with that, our last speaker, well, that was the last speaker, Karen Hevinson. So, and we have people online, correct?
So we have 3 people online. I only see 1 hand up. If you'd like to speak, go ahead and raise your hand. Our first online speaker will be Stephen Hearing.
Yes, my name's Stephen Hearing. I live in Vandenberg Village, and I'm the president of the Vandenberg Village Park and Playground Coalition. I even before I heard about the Patel's offer to assist with our sewer line, I was supportive of this hotel and the apartments. I actually attended the North County Architectural Review Board 3 years ago, and was impressed what they had then, and it's only improved since then. So yes, I am supportive of it, but I'd like to take an opportunity to say thanks for some folks who helped with the park and playground over these last 13, 14 years. I've been involved with it since its inception. I'd like to, commend Supervisor Doreen Farr, who actually championed our cause and caused us to acquire that 1.5 acre parcel. And then Supervisor Joan Hartman took up the mantle and not only championed the cause, but was able to bring impact dollars to help us with planning and development. And then, of course, Supervisor Bob Nelson has championed our cause too whenever we became part of the 4th District. One other person I want to extend is Miss Jill Van Wee, who was essentially the county's project manager for this park and playground, and she's done a fabulous job of bringing this park along, getting the plan almost to completion. Now, part of the issue here is our coalition was doing really well in the beginning with fundraising, and then when there was no immediate results, those donations died off. But with Supervisor Hartman's effort, and those impact fees, it allowed us to continue on with the design and development, and this park wouldn't have happened without her help and without Supervisor Nelson's continued support. Again, I'm very supportive of the hotel and the apartment complex. Thank you very much.
And no additional hands online.
Apologize. We had one more speaker that got a slip in, and that is Vicki Connor. Thank you.
Yes, My name is Vicki Connor. I'm a resident of North County, Santa Maria. But today I'm actually speaking for Econ Alliance, which is a nonprofit organization serving 6 different industries here in northern Santa Barbara County in our 5 cities and community areas. We feel that one of the things I'd like to mention first is that a lot of times developers and people working on construction projects are a little bit demonized because of their desire to change things. And I just wanted to put in a good word for them, because we get involved sometimes in the conversations with those folks, and they spend hours and hours and hours trying to do the best they can on projects. They want it to be visually appealing. They want it to be useful to the area. They want it to provide an asset to the community and so forth. So just as a foundational statement, I'd like to mention that I think this project is no different. The people that have been involved have spent a lot of time trying to figure out what would work for the area. And we think that the visual aspect is an addition to or an asset to the area. We think that some of the proposals that they have in terms of the park support and so forth are advantageous. But most of all, I think which is what we're mostly concerned about, is the economic development aspect and the factors that go into play with that. The vitality of North County, which is sort of what our mission is all about, depends on people being able to work here. And in order for people to be able to work here, they have to find housing. And as you all know, it's a #1 issue in our area. We think that any creative attempt to help solve this problem should be honored and respected. And we hope that you'll take a good consideration for any proposal like this that's put forward, because we need desperately this housing to keep the area strong and vital. And we thank you for this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
I had one question, Ms. Connor. So can you tell me again the organization you're representing?
The Economic Alliance.
Okay, and what
Foundation.
Can you help me understand what that is?
I'm sorry.
Can you help me understand what that is? I'm not familiar
Yes,
with it.
the mission of Econ Alliance is to build awareness, support, advocacy, and appreciation for northern Santa Barbara County's key industries and communities.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And another question? Hang on.
Sure.
No, I was just going to say they did provide a public comment letter, so you can look at that.
I didn't read it, apparently. Said it out loud. Sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I mean,
Okay.
just that'll give you a better idea for who they are and
Yeah.
who they represent.
It's good voice. So that concludes our public comment, and I think what we're going to do is take a break right? Oh, yeah, actually, let's,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Morrow, sorry about that, as long as you're here.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all those that came to speak. I do want to acknowledge Meg's comments, and we've heard them before during the housing element. And actually, one of her comments was the reason that the project got flipped, because of the concern of shadow and casting and eyes on the park. So now the hotel is up against the commercial. The residential portion, the 2-story elements are abutting the park, not the 3-story elements. So, these are the iterations that you go through when you listen to the community. And we believe that this is a good infill project, and we do hope that we will have a conversation about that one condition and move forward with approval of the project.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Morrow. All right, with that, I think we're going to do a 1-hour break for lunch and get back here to deliberate. Or unless, do people want to move ahead and do deliberations now?
I'm ready.
I'm game. It's up to you guys.
I'm ready.
Oh, okay. Is staff okay? I should not be so delighted without checking with you guys. You're the bones. Okay. Well, then let's continue. Close the public comment, and all that stuff is done, so let's go to deliberations. Commissioner Reed, I'm looking to you.
Okay. Well, we've been looking at this project almost since the first day I was on the commission as part of the housing element. But now it's in its current form. I think is much more attractive and does offer some benefit. Obviously, that's been attested to by a number of the letters of public comment that we have been seeing, which just further emphasize the need for housing in the area, and the need for good infill projects that are responsive to the needs of the community and sensitive to the needs of the community. I think this may well be one. I also am very sensitive to the feelings of people that live in an area, have lived in an area for decades, like me, who can often be a little resistant to changes. I live in Santa Maria, so I'm very familiar with those sorts of changes, some rather dynamic changes when you look at downtown and several of the neighborhoods I've lived in. One thing I might, and I've lived in other towns, Southern California, Northern California, that have been subject to a great deal of growth and change. But I think the one thing that remains a consistent part of that, often that change which you resisted turns out after a while to be a real benefit that you can accept. And communities, they have to either accept change or decay. I think this project could offer and become a real kind of an anchor project in a little more modernization and improvement of the Vandenberg Village area, because their commercial areas, they don't seem like they've changed very much for the last 15 years or so. I know a lot of people are attached to that, but I think this project meets the needs of the area, meets our housing needs, and if not here, where? I think the owners have been responsive to community need. I have no reason to believe they may not be. I think the hotel in that location accommodates a need for on-base contractors, other people, and also would offer great utility as a conference center, not just for Vandenberg contractors, but for other businesses and people in the area. I think that owners have really worked to accommodate the needs of the area. I find some reassurance when we look at traffic, those sorts of studies, that they have been responsive and sensitive and responsive to the needs of the community. We have comments about modifications of height, which they're slight and I don't think really reach any level of significance that will produce any adverse effects on the surrounding community. With respect to light, the slight increase in light is internal to the property, not external to the property. So I see no problem with that. I know local residents are very sensitive. They love their little shopping center and grocery store. I think the increased volume of business that could be generated by the hotel could actually improve that area by increasing revenues. So all in all, I think it's an attractive project. I would also support, in terms of the recommended action, the modification in the condition with respect to the maintenance of the open areas, to change that to accommodate the status of the housing project, not affordable housing, the housing apartment project of that. So I think in short, my recommendation would be, and I'd be prepared to make a motion in support of taking the recommended actions on page 16 and 17.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Park?
I also support the project, and I join in just about every one of Commissioner Reed's remarks, and I appreciate his articulation of how sometimes we're uncomfortable with change, but then it just has to occur. I think it was well stated. I want to recite a few reasons why I like this project, because I just like to give signals to people. One, I think that's that's a very good thing that it enables this park to occur. It's obviously been long a mourning, and now it looks like it can happen. So that's important. Two, it kind of reminds me when we had a project in New Quiyama months ago, and there were comments from some homeowners that this project we were looking at wasn't entirely compatible, or in their mind the same as what they were living in. And I think, that can be a two-edged sword. And sometimes it's good to have a refreshing look. And I think the architecture here will be refreshing for the area. I'm trying to be really tactful. I also like that it's a moderate income housing project. A lot of times projects like that in that area are sort of by definition that. We really don't have housing in this county for all the teachers, nurses, policemen, firemen, county planners, people like Mr. Simmons, whatever, we go on. And for our low income and very low income, we have funding sources. We don't have them at all in any way, shape, or form for moderate housing. And it has to come from private developers. And this is important. And the location of this in the middle of so many things is important. I'm reminded, Commissioner Bridley and I took a drive through Goleta during the housing element deliberations, bad times, I don't know what we want to call them. And we said the same thing to each other. We said, look at all this lightly used, unused commercial development that's kind of worn out. And why can't we put these housing there and distribute it instead of these big giant chunks? And the answer kind of was, well, what I heard from P&D was the state wouldn't accept those projects. They felt there would be long-term lessees and so forth, and they would never get built. Well, I don't mean to criticize whatever decisions were made by the board in the rezones, but I think it's a good thing that here you have commercial zoning that's going to be rezoned for the housing because we need the housing. I understand one of the speakers' comments about, oh gosh, what land do we have left for commercial projects? You can look at the commercial projects there. You can look at the commercial development there. It's been there a while. And there obviously has not been a dynamic that's pushed for further commercial development. If it was given the zoning there, if it was going to happen, it would have happened. If you didn't develop this, it might not happen in my lifetime. So it's going to happen. Moving on to the mitigation, I'm reminded, actually, I did do a site visit. I was, if it counts, I was up at the Twin Water Towers beyond the Mission on my horse yesterday, and I was looking right at that, and at this project. And where I was is in the center of A1 prime Burton Mesa habitat. When I look at this site, and I've looked at it from my car, I looked at it aerially from the photographs here, I've looked at it from the photographs that were not aerial photographs, and then I've looked at it from where I was up at the water towers. I guess you could call it Burton Mesa Chaparral, because it sort of could be, but it really isn't. It's a weed lot. And you're going to trade that lousy Burton Mesa Chaparral for some really good stuff if you close that escrow, because it's right next to the preserve. And it's going to buffer the preserve from private development. It's a really sweet little project to do that. So I think the mitigation is very much a plus. On VMTs, I know we have to have the statement of overriding considerations. Every one of us in this room, when we did the VMT hearings, to have VMT instead of level of service, and under CEQA, we knew that if you had any project that had some concentration of development, which is, that's where you're going to concentrate your public transit and all that, it's a good thing. it was going to show up as a VMT problem, and then it would ignore level of service. So we can't change that. I think it's just the vagaries of CEQA law. So I'm not concerned about the VMT thing. I have one little request. I noticed that the landscaping is going to be drought tolerant and/or native, and I saw on one portion of it, it spelled out what the plants were going to be, and they were all native. I'd like you to go all native if you can. I think you've got the soil type there that supports natives really well, and it would just be a really wonderful achievement. And I think everybody that's been involved in this project should be proud of themselves. It's well designed, well thought out. An indication of my excitement about a project is when I kind of want to see it through the process. And I'm looking at Commissioner Reed. I think he agrees with me. We kind of like to look in on it sometime. And we're both pretty familiar with native plants. And so if anybody ever wants to chat with us about what might be suitable there, we'd be glad to help out. So there you go. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Cooney, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Well, I think this has been instructive to have this discussion. This is a muddled project, and the clarity increases the more we focus on it. And I thank my colleagues from the North County for paying attention to what their part of this county really means to them. And, I think I would be getting out of my comfort zone if I suggested things to throw on the wall and discourage a project. So I would appreciate it if one or both would move forward and I can join them.
But not before I make my comments. I'm so patient. Learn how to do that. I agree with everything that's been said today, and I just wanted to talk to the neighbors that have said that people are not happy with this, and believe me, I lived that conflict for many years, actually, in Goleta, because there, as Commissioner Park has rightly said, we rezoned for the entire city of Solvang in one tiny area, not much bigger than Vandenberg Village. So it's something that we have to get used to. Housing is definitely a mandate from the state. It's even beyond our control in terms of the housing numbers. So when a developer comes in and wants to do housing instead of more commercial, it's really impossible for the city for the county to say no. I want to really give a shout out to the design team because the architectural elevations, the simulations are very good. I mean, really one of the best presentations I've ever seen. I'm going, hi, Laurie, back there. So thank you for that. I think it really helps illustrate the quality of the project. And I love the detail about the park being right next door, so yay on that. So I would support a motion to approve it as long as we move forward in that direction. The question I think we want to make sure we address is Mr. Murrah's request about the nonprofit management of the landscaping, and then staff had a couple of quick clarifications too that you had on the last slide of the PowerPoint. Do we want to include that in the motion? Or, actually, let me ask a question of staff. Does staff have any concern about Mr. Murrah's request for dropping the nonprofit management clause out? Because her reasoning made complete sense to me.
So, Madam Chair and Commissioners, I'm going to just interject. I think Mr. Murrah brings up excellent points, and I think, not that they're not invalid, but I think for the action of the Commission today, my recommendation is that would be more, being that this is going to the Board of Supervisors anyway, if the Commission wants to just provide direction to the Board saying, hey, would the Board consider this condition, and if there's any feasibility in removing that language at the Board level. So I wouldn't have the Commission making that decision today. If they want to make that recommendation for the Board to consider, I think that's appropriate. Being that this language is in the existing ordinance, I'd recommend that we leave it as staff has changed it, but then if the Commission feels that they want to provide that comment to the Board, we can capture that in the Board agenda letter.
Okay, so what ordinance is this in? Because that ordinance should be adjusted, because what you said is completely spot on. You don't,
Madam Chair and Commissioners, this is an item that we're looking at amending through the long-range planning program. It's just that this project is ahead of our
Okay, so
efforts
it's
to
a
change
cleanup-
it.
it's a
So it's a
cleanup
cleanup item, and I think Mr. Murray's comments are warranted, but we're not at the place yet to make those changes. And so I would just recommend that if the commission thinks it's the board should consider this, then they make that part of the motion.
okay. So just want to catch that before you make a motion. Commissioner Reed, back to you.
Yes, well, I will make the motion then that we adopt take the recommended actions on pages 16 and 17 in the slides.
And Commissioner Reed, through the chair, I'd also recommend, and those conditions as revised in today's hearing. And those are the slides.
Yes, and then with respect to the HOA not being included, you will take care of that in the board letter? How will that be addressed? Is that part of this motion, or is that outside of it?
So Madam Chair and Commissioners, here's my recommendation is, when you frame the motion, is to move staff's recommendations and in addition to the conditions that were revised in today's hearing. And if the commission wants to make a recommendation to the board in regards to the condition with a nonprofit, then you can add that into your motion as well. So we would get, in addition, the Planning Commission recommends that the board consider amending that condition if feasible when it goes to the board.
As stated.
No, and those conditions are as revised by staff in the presentation today.
Okay. So my motion
So
is...
there's two parts. Sorry, let me.
Okay.
I'm making it so confusing. I'm like
right there, yeah.
I'm like Chair Bradley. I'm running out of sugar.
I know.
So, first part of the motion is to move staff's recommendations as presented in the slide. In addition, those conditions as revised by staff in the presentation today. So those are the first two parts.
Okay.
The third part then is to recommend the board to consider amending that condition related to the nonprofit if feasible.
Okay, so my motion will be to adopt the recommended actions on page 16 and 17 and what you said.
And I'm going to second it real fast before anybody wants to do any more wordsmithing.
Very good. Do we want to do a roll call?
Commissioner Cooney.
Aye.
Commissioner Park.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Chair Bradley.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Okay, I think with that concludes our agenda for today, right? And we won't see anybody until, how about that? Yeah. We won't see anybody until, shoot.